What's up, San Diego?
This is San Diego sports. The wins, the losses, the moments that matter, and the opinions that come with them.
Padres have clinched the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 05 and 06.
No hype, no filter. Just the truth about your teams, your city, and the people who care about it most.
The reality is the expectations are higher now for this club than they were in 2019 and 2020 when the Padres hadn't made the playoffs that many times.
He's been here. He knows this city. And now he's leading the conversation every single day. Live and local on 97.3 The Fan.
This is fun. We're doing this for fun. This is fun. Have fun. Enjoy the fun with us having fun.
Now, here's Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? Happy Friday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Good to be with all of you today on a Friday. Getting ready for a fun weekend here at America's finest city. July. A little humid outside. It's a little hot. The El Nino probably making this place a little bit more tropical. I heard the ocean is like super warm right now. About to try that out. Anyway, we only had one baseball game yesterday, right? Congratulations to Frank Marchese's New York Mets. They don't get a lot of these wins. I think they forgot how to do it. There we go. They're about to do exactly what Frank doesn't want them to do, and that's win 40 games in the second half and keep David Stearns as their general manager. You know what? When you're starting the second half of the season, Frank, and you look at the standings, you're just looking at second half standings, there's one team atop of the leaderboard right now at 1-0.
Yep.
The New York Mets are in first place in the second half. Start tracking your own standings now.
So back.
So back. Mets are so back. I just need him to not be back when they play the Padres here in the month of August.
Don't worry.
Or September, whatever it is. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about today on the Braden Surprenant Show, talking about, obviously, a lot of the trade deadline. A big article from Kevin Acee yesterday about what to do at the trade deadline. And there were some interesting nuggets there that we want to break down. And we're going to get to that, immediately here, because no Padres baseball yesterday. We're going to have Drake Hills on later on at 1:35 talking about the World Cup Final on Sunday. Whether or not anybody from France or England is going to be juiced up, ready to play for the third place game. I know why they do it now. I understand from the business standpoint. How many players do you think are excited for the third place game, aside from maybe some guys that might be trying to showcase themselves for the next World Cup, Frank? There can't be too many people that excited. Maybe Mbappe to try to win the Golden Boot. But aside from that, is there any real excitement to play in a third place game? I know they've done it forever, but at this point in this day and age, aside from obviously money, which dictates a lot of this, there can't be a lot of people excited for tomorrow's France-England game.
I heard Napoleon and Winston Churchill are going to be glued to the television set.
Nice. Is America going to be on France's side since they helped them out in the Rev? Is that what's going to happen?
America, remember soccer exists?
They've already moved on to football with the media days for every conference except the Pac-12. We'll talk about college football later on.
I didn't know, by the way, MLS, for those of you who wanted the MLS, they started back up last night.
How about that?
I did not know that was a thing.
They ain't messing around, man.
No,
let's go. Let's get this thing rolling.
San Diego FC starts next Wednesday. They're back up, but Montreal played Toronto. St. Louis City played Sporting Kansas City, and Portland played Seattle last night. And that's it until the 22nd. San Diego FC's in Colorado to take on the Rapids.
Interesting. We'll be asking Drake Hills about that here coming up at 1:35. So you're starting to get some sports back here. And again, after the All-Star break, it locks into trade deadline time. And we've talked a lot about it this week. We haven't heard really anything more than maybe a couple rumors here and there. But I saw some interesting things from Kevin Acee's article. There's a couple of things that I'm not saying Kevin is wrong. I find it hard to believe that Mason Miller is going to be like losing all of this years of control with, potentially 2027, like missing the entire season, and with new rules about how many years of arbitration and years of control you get, he might lose another one of those years. So he really only has one more year of control. When you look at, I'm sure the information he was given is correct. I'm sure he was told that maybe, but I don't know, Frank, how you can go into a labor negotiation and come up with rules and then just all of a sudden be like, we're not like slowly going into all of these brand new roster rules, like only having 5 years of ARB, like, once you turn 30 and you have 5 years of service time, you get to become a free agent. I mean, I think a lot of those rules are good, but I don't know how you could just immediately have it in play as soon as you sign the CBA, whenever that may be.
There's got to be some sort of grace period, I would have to assume. I mean, for a guy like Mason Miller to lose any form of control on him is going to hurt, because you're getting him for less money than you would if you signed a contract, and you're also losing time with him. So I would have to assume there are going to be some form of grace periods that are going to be implemented with those things, whether it's a guy because Miller's in arbitration right now. He's going to be going into ARB 2 of 4. I would have to assume like that there would be a provision in there, like if you're still in pre-ARB, then it applies. But if you're in arbitration already, then it doesn't. Like there would have to be something like that.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how you could put that in. That's like college basketball wants to eliminate the European pros. Did you remember like Bennett Woods were talking about that the other day? And they wanted to start that, if they get that done right before the basketball season started this year. San Diego State's got like 3 of those guys. What are they expected to do? Just like go find somebody else to play? Like, what do you can't update rules like that immediately right before a season starts. It doesn't work. It's, first of all, it's not fair, but second of all, it doesn't really work. So I don't really see that happening. And I agree with some people we talked to before the show started. I'll believe it when I see it in that particular sense. But let's say that is the rumor of what might actually happen. I look at what was said in this article about Mason Miller in particular, because of like, he's one of the options that you could potentially sell, right? And it was the conversation about, and I'm trying to go find it back on the article about trying to find, it was essentially, and Adam sent me like some of the screenshots. I mean, that's where I know where it is. But I look at a couple of quotes from here that's interesting, and this is what was highlighted in this article. But one thing has essentially been decided between the union and MLB is that the service time required to become a free agent will go from 6 years to 5 under the new collective bargaining agreement. That also is a potentially significant factor in assessing the value of Miller, who is by far the biggest trade chip for Preller at the deadline. Besides his arguably being the best closer in the game, Miller's attractiveness is enhanced by him being under team control through 2029, but that is virtually certain to become 2028 once the labor dust settles. Throw in a potential loss of a 2027 season, and Miller might have one season to go before being in line for a huge free agent contract. I don't buy that. I don't. I'm not saying the information that Kevin got was wrong, but Frank, I don't know how you can implement that. What are you going to say? Like, Paul Skeens now has one less year with Pittsburgh right now?
I think so.
Bubba Chandler's got a less year with Pittsburgh now. I mean, that drastically affects a lot of teams going into the next couple of years. I don't know how this could be legit for Major League Baseball without grandfathering it in for certain players.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And for Mason Miller, who's a Super 2 guy, that started his arbitration clock a little bit earlier. So you, instead of having 3 years of pre-ARB, 3 years of ARB, he's got 2 years of pre-ARB and then 4 of arbitration. So that's also another thing, those Super 2 players that they're going to have to sort their way out of as well in that.
So let's just say that could happen. that they don't grandfather it in and these are the rules, right? Let's just say it could happen. Could you trade at this year's deadline assuming new rules in a CBA? Would that be a good idea?
No.
I don't think so. What happens if it doesn't? I mean, until it becomes an actual rule, that would be a hell of a risk to take. You're assuming two things. One, you are going to assume that 2027 doesn't happen at all, which means you just lose the year, which, by the way, I don't know why that would count as a year of control either if you don't play.
Yeah, that's
from the
stupid.
owner standpoint, right? Or like the team. But how does that count if you don't get any service time for it? If you're not going to get service time, it shouldn't count as a year of control. So I don't really believe that. And on top of that, if you're assuming that 2027 doesn't happen, and then you're assuming that everybody's just going to get a year lopped off who's in arbitration
and
become a free agent, you're going to lose 2 years of this guy because of a labor dispute. I don't see that happening. And this affects more than just Mason Miller. So are you going to make a trade assuming that these two extremes actually happen? That to me would be unintelligent.
No, I agree 100%. And for those of you who don't know what Super 2 is, Zach Neto also falls under this Super 2 category. So if you end the season, like Mason Miller ended the season last year with 2.166 years of major league playing time. If you're over 2 years but under 3, your arbitration clock starts. So that's the Super 2 designation. You don't lose any of the control. You just get an extra year of arbitration because you're over the 2 years. So I don't see how you can go from having Mason Miller through 2029 to basically only having him for one more year, if that's the case. I don't see how that's fair to. I understand the players aren't getting any younger, and that's 2 years. That's a year where they lost wages and all that. But I mean, it's also not fair to the player. It's also not fair to the owners because it's not like the player got hurt where they're playing games around it. They're not playing games at all. So to lose 2 years of control over a guy because of a lockout, that's just absolutely absurd to me as far as a business strategy.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the case. I really don't. And I don't think and obviously the Padres' biggest concern would be Mason Miller with this particular situation, but there's a lot of young stars around Major League Baseball that are going to have this problem if that's the case. And it's not fair to any of the teams about this. And on top of that, like if you assume this, and I think this is more leverage in terms of like trying to get, maybe they're using it as leverage, the owners are, of like, we'll lop it off early. So we're in order to get a salary cap, you guys can go to the free agency early. Let's think about it from this perspective. I think if those get implemented, Frank, that means they're getting the salary cap. Again, since we're going this huge assumption to make a trade, this trade deadline based on what could potentially happen in the future, you would have to assume that a salary cap is in play. And with Mason Miller going to free agency, how many teams are going to be willing to pay X percentage of their budget on a closer? At that point? Like, what's the market like for Mason Miller? I mean, it might be more incentivized for him to sign with San Diego and stay here in San Diego instead of like getting an extra $2 million, $3 million, maybe max to go pitch for like the Twins.
And I think the biggest lean towards that is he's not a Boris client. Boris clients don't sign early. They don't sign contract extensions. He's a Covenant Sports Group guy. So that could really help the Padres in that case if they did want to sign him and say, listen, Mason, you have a chance to make some money here. And if we get what we want, which we're going to fight tooth and nail for, you're not going to get what you're worth because of the salary cap.
Yes.
And you'll get what you want.
Which leads to an angle that we haven't really talked about. I mean, everybody's talking about whether or not to sell Mason Miller or, keep him on the team. I mean, based on all the scenarios we've just played out, on this article and some reports from AC, I think it's a better idea to sign him to a contract extension. I really do. I mean, at this point, like, it's not like he's going to make. I think it would work out for both sides. You could give him a 6-year deal for $120 million. It buys out Mason Miller of 3 years of arbitration. He gets 3 years in addition. Remember, he's 27.9 years old this year. He will be 28 next year. Obviously, go down the list. You can pay him to about his age 32, 33 season. He'll be making top closer money, but it would still be grandfathered in if they had a salary cap. You wouldn't have to worry about, what the future would be like. And oh, by the way, with having him under contract, instead of it saying arbitration, that's a fixed cost that teams now know what Mason Miller is worth, which makes it a lot easier to be a trade pickup. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's playing a lot better than he is right now, and his ERA plus is even higher, which I highly doubt. And all of a sudden, $20 million makes a lot more sense for one of these teams, or maybe one of these teams trade before they get Mason Miller on a salary cap kind of idea. But my thing is, I would imagine, and who knows, but with some of the contracts that have already been signed pre-salary cap, they have to find a way to make sure those are grandfathered into the system. And I would assume that I think that would have to work for trades too. Because it's 100%. Like, all right, well, nobody can take Mason Miller now because he's getting paid $20 million a year. And now we have this new salary cap. I think you would have to do that. And so all the guys that have already signed are going to get the money they're getting that either doesn't count towards the cap, or they're going to have like two caps. They're going to have the guys that have already signed cap, and then they're going to have the guys that are part of the new system. These are systems that take years to kind of fully get into because of lawsuits, litigation. I mean, these guys have contracts. You can't just like cancel this contract to go to a salary cap. These guys are still going to get paid the money that they are owed if they already signed.
This first generation of salary cap baseball is going to be very, very confusing based off of who is where and who signed a contract already, and do these guys apply to the salary cap or not. It'll get a lot less confusing when those guys start to fizzle out and start to retire. But yeah, you're not going to be able to stop the confusion for the first decade or so of this salary cap baseball if we do end up getting it.
No, I think it's going to be interesting. I guess you could look back to the NHL and what the NHL did in 2005. Was it 2005 when they went to the salary cap? 0405.
That was their lockout. Yeah,
they had a couple of different rules that try to like help grandfather the contracts in, but it wasn't just like all of a sudden, well, you're way over, time to start cutting people. Guys are going to get the money. And it's a very interesting topic of conversation, which leads to another report in this article that talks about a deal that the Padres would not refuse. We'll talk about that deal and what it could potentially mean when we come back. 5 years ago, college sports changed forever. On July 1st, 2021, athletes were officially allowed to profit from their name, image, and likeness. And at the time, biggest NIL deals were around $20,000. Today, some college quarterbacks are making millions, and NIL has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. But the biggest surprise wasn't athletes getting endorsement deals. It was how quickly NIL became tied to recruiting and building championship teams. The NCAA tried to create rules, but college sports moved faster than anyone expected. 5 years later, the biggest question is this: did NIL create a better future for college athletics, or did it create a system where money determines who wins? Either way, there was no going back now to the old version of college sports, and that is our subject today on the weekly college sports update. This week marks a major milestone that somehow passed without much celebration across college athletics. July 1st, 2026 was a 5-year anniversary of name, image, and likeness. And it begs the question of, has it made this better for college athletics or worse for college athletics? And before we start diving into why it began and everything like that, to answer the question, I think it's made it great for college athletes and worse for college sports. And more specifically, great for high-paying college football and basketball players and terrible for the rest of college athletics.
Yes, 100%. And it's, again, I just wanted a video game, man. That's all I wanted. I just wanted NCAA college football back. But other than that, I mean, it is spun wildly out of control. It has been great for the individual. It has not been great for the atmosphere and college athletics as a whole, the way it was anticipated to be.
It's very good for the top 1%.
Mm-hmm.
The top 1% that was already going to make this kind of money at the next level anyway. I'm sure there's a couple of I wouldn't say feel good stories, but there's been some people that probably have benefited from this being the top in their sport in a non super lucrative professional sport like softball, like some of these other, Olympic sports, if you will, where the top echelon players are making a lot of money compared to what they would be doing previously. But, for football and college basketball, like the guys that are getting all the money were still the guys that were going to get all the money at the next level. Sure, there's some role players that are probably making some money now, but, overall, it's turned, I think, college football for the worse than it is for the better. And the only one that's really benefiting, again, is the top 1% of the earners. So from that perspective, I think this is a something that obviously needs to be fixed, but also not necessarily something to be celebrated in college athletics.
No, and going back to when this started, you take a look at Hannah and Haley Cavender. Those were the two first ones. They were social media stars. They also happened to play basketball for Fresno State, and they signed endorsement deals for $20,000. Same thing with Derek King, who was the quarterback for Miami at the time. They signed endorsement deals for $20,000, which was huge. It was a big payday at the time when NIL first started. And now you're seeing what NIL has done. NIL spending across college athletics is projected to reach $4.5 billion this year. So what Jose Feliciano paid for the Padres would just barely be able to cover, or actually just miss being able to cover all of NIL sponsorship this season for college athletics.
Yeah, and I think like the biggest surprise wasn't that athletes can make money. The surprise was how quickly NIL became connected to basically pay for play.
Yep.
I'm not that surprised about it. I mean, once you open the floodgates, you knew this was going to happen. I mean, you're talking about, sports, the college athletics there was massive under the table cheating going on before you were allowed to actually pay players. There's no real surprise to me that all of a sudden, some random player's name, image, and likeness was going to be worth way more than what fair market value was for a offensive tackle. Trying to promote a dealership, right? Like, and all of a sudden these budgets for these places for quote marketing started to go through the roof. I mean, the idea was for people like the Cavender twins to not have to sacrifice money because, not have to sacrifice income because they're popular on social media in order to play college athletics. It was for people that have ever gotten like a $20 meal, because you were a poor college kid, not costing you like games, right? Like that was the whole reason that you did the name, image, and likeness. And that was, that needed to happen, right? I mean, it was some of those
100%.
rules were so archaic. And 23 on a Friday. It's going to be a fun Friday show. Lots of Padres conversation. Get ready for Padres baseball back tonight against the Kansas City Royals, a 3-game series in KC. We're thinking the Padres got to win 38 games out of the next 66. They win 38 games. They're going to be at 86 wins. I think that's probably good enough to make the postseason. It's no guarantee, but 38 and 28, very doable. They got to rack up some wins against teams that are bad. The Royals are bad. Padres minimum need to take 2 out of 3. Minimum need to take 2 out of 3. They got Michael King tonight going against Seth Lugo. It's a 5:10 start, 4:10 Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show. Michael King 6-7 to the 3.41 ERA. Seth Lugo 3-6 with a 4.56 ERA. Saturday, Griffin Canning pitches. Game will be at 1:10, and on Sunday, It will be Armand Marquez against Noah Cameron. That will be Sunday's matchup before the Padres head to Atlanta to take on my Atlanta Braves, as I now own stock in the Braves. It's publicly traded, dude. I do not give out investing advice. There's a disclaimer for that. Don't listen to me for investing advice. I'm not a professional. Invest at your own risk.
Something like that. I don't know if I still
I'm surprised you haven't bought Brave stock to just slowly over time ruin the franchise.
I'm trying to see if I still have some of the old stuff from Smart Investing.
No.
For that.
Should ask Smart Investing if it's a good idea to invest in the Braves.
Yeah, I don't have any. I don't have their disclaimer anymore.
Boo.
That stinks.
Oh, man. You could buy, the Knicks and the Rangers are on the stock market?
For someone who doesn't delete anything.
Well, you deleted that. It's like,
I know.
Putting Frank to sleep. Do you know you could buy stock in the Islanders and the Rangers and the Knicks?
Yeah, that's like MSG Incorporated.
Yeah, so
like
they own. Yeah,
they're under Madison Square Garden.
I think those are the only two American teams you can buy stock in on the stock market. Manchester, I think Man U's on there. Doesn't
from what I'm seeing, you're
Dave,
down.
I'm down like a couple bucks today. It's like it's the long-term game, man. Plus I get a vote for every share that I have. What do you guys think we should do? I vote for Acuna to be traded to the Padres. Is that possible? Is that possible? Can we do that? Doesn't Dave have Man U? Isn't he 2 shares of Man U?
I think our very own Dave Marcus does own some of Manchester United.
He's a Man U owner. The other one I saw was Juventus. Do you know how much Juventus shares go for?
No.
$2. It's like $2 to $3. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been great. So if you want to buy Juventus, another rival, you can just buy all your rivals. You can buy all your rivals. The only one you could be a part of that's not your rivals, the Knicks. You could buy stock in the Rangers. You could buy stock in the Braves. You could buy stock in the in Juventus. You dislike Man U? Buy stock in them too. I might as well. Is that the in order to be publicly traded team, you must be one of Frank's enemies? Is that how that works?
Let me see. Oh, United's at $22.
Hey, there you go. $22 a share. Maybe they'll send you a little ownership package. You get to be in the owner's box. Do you think if I walked up, do you think I could be allowed in the owner's box in Atlanta?
Especially if I'm going.
Yeah. Knock on the door. You should buy some stock.
Inter's not on the stock trade. I just checked.
I know. Shame. Values of franchises going up, man. Buy your ownership stock now.
Chelsea's not either.
No.
That's annoying.
The people that were able to buy the Green Bay Packers stock a long time ago, before it was like the fake stock that they put out, that had to be cool. That had to be super cool. All right.
What was not cool, and as I see Juan in chat here, Juan was a very loud supporter of mine last night.
Oh yeah, what happened? I heard there's some controversy again last night.
Didn't go well.
We had a problem with the lap car.
Was leading.
Got lapped by a car?
No, I was leading with 15 to go. Caution came out. Guy spun off a 4. I'm coming through turns 3 and 4 right as he's trying to get the car turned around again, and drove right up in front of me. I had nowhere to go. And I ended up finishing second because I drove with nothing but pure instinct and 20 lap pressure tires. No, Trash Panda Autosport is not publicly traded. We're not even privately traded. We're barely privately traded.
Yeah, Juan's upset.
Yeah, I was.
How was that post-game interview?
Very much like this, actually, because it's one of those things that you don't expect to happen, so you don't know how to react to it.
Frank was like numb, it says.
Yeah, I didn't know how to react to it because you don't expect it. So it's like, Okay, that just happened. That really sucks.
That does suck.
But
Sorry,
thank
man.
you, Juan, for being in the cheering section all night. That was
That's why you
fun to see.
got to keep putting the links out there so people can watch the races.
I'll try to do something for Thursday.
That's what
for
I
next
should do
Tuesday
for
and Thursday.
softball. Post my schedule and be like, come out and heckle the other team.
Don't do that, dude. Your show fans are your biggest ops.
I know that's true. That's true. All right, let's discuss this conversation that Kevin Acee put out. It's part of the why should they sell category. And he goes in with the details like it took 83 wins to make the postseason last year in the National League. Win totals of the 6th seed in the other 3 seasons were 84, 87, 89. Given the number of contenders this season, a fight to the finish seems very likely, and that could push the win total to a higher end of the spectrum. Theoretically, but at the same time, Frank, like a lot of these teams have to play each other. So like even though they're all battling with each other, I don't know if they can all win the whole time.
No.
So if you want to get to 87 wins, the Padres have to go 39 and 27 the rest of the way. If you want to get to 86 wins, they got to go 38 and 28. I think that's very doable. And at their best this season, the Padres are 12 games above 500, but they have not been at their best in quite some time as they rank last in Major League Baseball in runs per game and 27th in starting pitcher ERA. Now, they go on to talk about like players that have been struggling and other things. But here's the trade deadline part. Multiple sources said the Padres have not ruled out anything, which we've heard before, including the possibility of trading closer Mason Miller, high leverage lefty Adrian Morejon, Michael King. King could be a potential rental as he can opt out of his contract after the season. So pending free agents Morejon, Walker Buehler, Ty France, and probably Gavin Sheets are also part of that conversation. So the conversation about we went into the whole losing a year of arbitration and control, which I think is erroneous. I will believe it when I see it. I'm not saying his reporting is wrong. What I'm saying is I can't believe that would be implemented in baseball. We talked about that in the last segment. So that goes on to talk about like Mason Miller and, you know, he could potentially lose 2 years of control with a missed season in 2027 and then, of course, getting one season lopped off. But the interesting part of this was from this excerpt right here that I'm going to read. One question being kicked around at Petco Park is whether moving Miller as part of a package that includes Bogaerts is a proposition too beneficial to pass up. It is practically a foregone conclusion that the Padres will eventually find a way to get out from under a portion of the $25 million they owe their underperforming 33-year-old shortstop each of the next 7 seasons. If someone were to, say, be willing to take on some of Bogaerts' salary and Xander waives his no-trade clause, it may tip the scales. Now, that is not saying the Padres are going to absolutely agree to a deal if a team says they want to take on Bogaerts' salary. What it's saying is that could be something that might sway them in the direction of potentially trading Miller, but that's no guarantee. The one guarantee that says is that they want to at some point get out of Bogaerts' contract, whether it be this year or over the course of the next 7 years. It could be 3 years before his contract is over. They're going to try to get out of Xander Bogaerts' contract. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen this trade deadline. What it's saying is if somebody were to offer a package back to the Padres and take on some of Xander Bogaerts' salary for Mason Miller, Frank, they'd have to think about it.
Which I think you kind of have to
at
this point. I mean, as much as we love Xander Bogaerts here on this show, if there's a way that you can get out of one of the big contracts, or at least get out of a majority of one of the big contracts, you kind of have to take it. And that's with anyone. I mean, if there is a way to get some financial ease and sort of finagle your way around into some more financial freedom, you kind of have to take it. I mean, that is something that you really should be looking at. I don't think it should be done just yet, but I think that it's something that you seriously do have to consider if that option is brought up.
I think it's something that's worth monitoring for sure. I mean, I I like Xander Bogaerts, and a lot of fans don't. I do. I think he brings a good presence to this team. I would hate to see him go and then do well for someone else. Um, and I also would hate to see Mason Miller be the guy that we have to use Mason Miller to trade off some of the kind. I don't think that would be beneficial for the Padres as much as emotionally. I think a lot of fans would like it in the moment, but it is something that you would have to consider. That to me would be a deal that would be worth listening to. But that's the other thing too, is somebody willing to do that. That's the other thing. I mean, you got to find somebody that's willing to do that, and it's got to be a team that Xander wants to go play for, because he doesn't have to leave. He doesn't have to waive his no trade clause. He can, and a lot of guys have done in the past, but that doesn't mean he will. So a lot to consider from that perspective. We're going to continue the conversation on this. Big article from Kevin Acee yesterday about buying, selling, standing pat. We've talked about the selling. Let's talk about the buying. Why should they buy? We'll answer that when we come back. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. I saw, I saw the in our YouTube chat about, the whole idea, like the Xander Bogaerts and a portion of his contract getting paid in a Mason Miller deal. Like it would have to be something like that for the Padres to like really be interested in potentially trading Mason Miller. And I somebody said like, oh my God, it'd do wonders for the Padres if they freed up the $25 million. With the going rate of players right now, like, who do you think you're going to get in free agency for $25 million? Like, you either get one above average player who, by the way, would sign for a long term and you're hoping that they are good for long term, or you get two solid players, average, I guess. I mean, if you just start thinking about like what the open market was for players, I like, does anybody remember what these guys signed for? Let's say you didn't have Xander Bogaerts on the books, right? Let's say you never signed him. And you got like $25 million laying around, right, Frank? You follow me so far?
Yeah.
Who would you have signed this offseason for $25 million? If you had the extra $25 million, based on the contracts that were handed out, what player or two player? Pull it up on Fangraphs. Go to Fangraphs free agent tracker. Who are like the two players you would have signed? Or the one player you would have signed for? You have $25 million on a budget.
Free agent tracker. For $25 million?
Yeah, you got $25 million because that's what it would have freed up to.
I would have. I may have signed Eugenio Suarez as like a power DH.
Yeah, that's
so like a
$15
solid
million.
DH.
So now you got $10 million left. And you need pitching, right? If you want to do that, you need pitching.
And before the season, I probably would have signed Merrill Kelly.
How's Merrill Kelly doing this year at age 37?
Not well, from what I remember.
Yeah. He's getting $20 million. Right?
That's going before the season, though.
Right, but that's what you would have signed, right? Like Nick Martinez
that's
would have
what
cost.
I would have done.
Maybe you go with Nick Martinez for $13 million. That probably would have been nice. But that's, again, we talked about the risk of signing him yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
That guy had never made it through a season as a starting pitcher. Who knows? Maybe he gets moved to the bullpen if he has a struggling second half. He has never done it. He's 35 years old. Like, that's a massive risk. I'm wondering who you think you're going to get, because everybody continues to look at some of these players that are getting some big contracts, and you run into the same problem in 3 years anyway, because you have to sign these guys to 5-year, 7-year, 4-year deals plus. and you hope that they're really good for all of those years. You can't sign Dylan Cease. He's getting $27 million over $27 million a year for the next 7 years. Maybe you bring in Ryan O'Hearn for 14.5. That gives you about $10 million left, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you know what type of pitcher signed for $10 million last year? Justin Verlander signed for $10 million. Emilio Pagan signed for $10 million.
That's obscene.
Obscene. You know who else got $10 million? Adolis Garcia got $10 million. I'm just telling you, like, and this is not just to say like Xander Bogaerts is like way worth the $25 million, but with the way that contracts are going and what it costs to sign guys, you're replacing Xander with another veteran that's in his 30s for 5 years instead of 7 years, and you're hoping for the best. You could have signed. You couldn't have signed Ranger Suarez at $26 million, but let's just say you did. You could have had Ranger Suarez. Here's my other caveat to that, Frank. If you take Xander Bogaerts off this team and replace him with the players that you've already mentioned, are they in a way better situation they are right now, the same situation, or a worse situation?
I mean, you might be a little average with Merrill Kelly, 7-8 with a 5.38 ERA and 16 starts.
What is that different than what you already have?
Yeah, it's not really all that different. And then Eugenio Suarez signed with Cincinnati. Hold on. Out there. There he is, designated hitter.
What's he doing?
Hitting 208, 11 homers, 35 RBIs.
Do you know how much money Trent Grisham got? I mean, he signed a qualifying offer. He's getting paid like $22 million. You know, you're not going to be able to afford Kyle Schwarber. I mean, Tucker, you're not going to afford. Bellinger's not on there. Bichette's not on there. Valdez, Alonso, right? You have to start from Michael King down. I mean, you already have Michael King, so he got 25 AAV. So Michael King down on the list if you sort it from AAV. You could get like Trent Grisham and a $3 million player. You get Gleyber Torres and a $3 million player. You can get Brandon Woodruff, sign a qualifying offer, and a $3 million player. Shota Imanaga, signed a qualifying offer. So those guys don't really count anyway. I mean, Edwin Diaz got $21 million. He has not even playing. Merrill Kelly, Jorge Polanco. Jorge Polanco got $20 million a year. Should the Padres have signed Jorge Polanco, Frank, as somebody that watches him on the Mets? Do you even watch him? Does he even play? Right? How many games has he missed?
He just came back, actually. Good news for Met fans. He's been frustrating as well. He's been the new Jed Lowry for this team.
Hassan Kim's getting $20 million. What's Hassan Kim doing this year?
That's absurd.
What's Hassan Kim doing this year?
Hold on. Let's see here. Let's be.
We got a lot of Hassan Kim fans.
We do. Jorge Polanco for the Mets is hitting $169, 1 homer, 3 RBIs, and 77 at bats
for $20 million.
Yep. So stealing money, just straight stealing money.
Hassan Kim
is on the IL right now. It looks like. Yep. 10-day IL. Oh. 73 at bats. So he has been hurt.
Yeah.
3 RBIs.
Nice.
Hasn't hit a home run, but he was never really a power guy.
Not really, no.
His batting average?
Does it start with a 2?
No.
Does it start with a 1?
No.
Oh my gosh.
0.68. He is 5 for 73 on the season.
$20 million.
He scored 4 runs, though.
$20 million. Every run he scores cost the Braves so far $5 million. It's a $5 million run right there. It's getting $5 million a run. Could have signed Zach Gallen. Has he been good?
Arizona, yes.
Mm-hmm.
He appears to be hurt. Hold on. He doesn't appear to be hurt. He is 15-day IL. No, he has not been good. 3-9 with a 6.34 ERA in 19 starts.
Right. Would you rather have him on the team than Xander Bogaerts right now? And then, by the way, he got $18 million, so you would have an additional $7 million to spend. Your $7 million range is Gregory Soto. He signed a 1-year, $7.75 million deal.
Xander's good. I like Xander. We like Xander on this show. We are the Xander Bogaerts
I'm just saying, like, unless you think that $25 million is going to go to, I honestly think people think that if the Padres didn't have Xander right now, they would have been able to sign Kyle Schwarber.
No.
Or Cody Bellinger or Bo Bichette or like some of these guys. And even some of those guys are not like necessarily changing what this organization's able to do.
You guys know what Bo Bichette's doing this season?
I don't even want to know. Except I do.
Bo Bichette, 10 homers, 51 RBIs. Not horrific. Batting .253. He's not even remotely a $42 million a year player.
$42 million a year. I mean, seriously.
It's not even close.
Not even close. I go through we're getting down to the lower levels here. I mean, you could have signed, I guess, Devin Williams for $15 million.
Could have done that.
How's that worked out?
3-2 with a 4.68 ERA and 14 saves.
And the bullpen. JT Realmuto, I guess you could have had. That would have been, we thought about potentially making that move happen. And then you got him and a $10 million guy.
I swear Pete Alonso ended his career. Devin Williams. JT Realmuto's hitting .208, 7 homers, 33 RBIs.
Is that making this team that much better?
Nope.
I don't think so either.
At 35.
The only one right now, like and this is hindsight, right? Like you could have signed, I guess if you didn't have Xander Bogaerts, you could have had Ryan O'Hearn for $14.5 million. He's been pretty solid. And that gives you $11 million left.
Smash.
And your $11 million players are Mike Yastrzemski, Adrian Hauser, Brad Keller, Kenley Jansen, Luke Weaver. I'm just like, I'm trying to find this situation of, if they didn't have Xander Bogaerts, they'd be able to pay for all these guys. And by the way, a lot of these players are have the big contracts that you get stuck with. Oh my God.
Smash. Really? That's where we're going with this now? Xander signed a $280 million contract, not a $25 million contract. Look it up, way, way bigger than just 2026. Really?
Oh my God.
You're going to pretend to not know how contracts work now?
You have to talk about the value year to year. That's how you view this. Oh boy. That's why people think that if you got rid of Xander Bogaerts' contract, the team would be drastically better. I mean, go Aztecs in the Twitch chat. That is the dumbest comment of the week. Congratulations. Hour 1 in the books. When we get back, we'll give you reasons to buy the trade deadline. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number sports station 97.3 The Fan. All of our guests join us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. Talking Padres here in the first hour. You want to get your phone calls, 833-288-973, 833-288-973. Padres have reached arguably the most important 3-week stretch of their season. Where have we heard this before? I don't know. Like every week? It seems like every week is very important. I guess that's kind of what happens when you're sitting at 48, 3.5 games out of a final wild card spot.
And they only get more importanter from here.
Thank you for that.
Yep, no problem. Got you.
Unlike previous seasons where the direction seemed obvious, this year's club presents compelling arguments for buying, selling, and standing pat. That puts them in baseball purgatory. The Padres are not bad enough to become obvious sellers. I think we can agree on that. They're also not good enough to justify an all-in move. I also think we can agree on that, Frank. Still talented enough that giving up feels premature.
Yes.
Ownership has indicated payroll flexibility remains available despite the pending ownership transition, but only if it makes sense, which leaves Preller evaluating, is this roster good enough? Is the trade market good enough? Is sacrificing future assets worth chasing a playoff berth? I think those are all valid questions. Is the roster good enough to buy at the deadline? Frank, I would say yes. They're talented enough where you could buy at the deadline and make a little bit of a move. They have played very poorly. They have played arguably the worst. I mean, the Stars have played obviously career worst first halves of seasons, and they're still 500 magically. I think from that perspective, it's still good enough to make a move in favor of adding to the roster. Is the trade market good enough? This is where I think it starts to fall apart a little bit, because I don't really think, Frank, the trade market's going to be very good, because I think there's a lot of teams that aren't going to sell. And there have been, and we're going to get to this in a little bit because Jim Bowden wrote an article about this in The Athletic. But when you look at a lot of these teams that are expected to be for sure sellers, as of now, they have made reports that like it's unlikely Skubal moves. It's unlikely Joe Ryan moves. It's unlikely Sonny Gray moves or Aroldis Chapman. Now, Gray and Chapman have now played themselves into a position where that makes a lot of sense. But, I mean, if those guys aren't going to move, who is? Because all of those players are on teams where it would make sense to sell at the deadline, which leads to the conversation of, is this market good enough to buy? I don't necessarily know it would be worth trading minor league chips to get the 2023 trade deadline haul that the Padres had. Right? I mean, would it be worth it trading for a guy like a Rich Hill? Would it be worth it trading for a Garrett Cooper? Would it be worth it trading for a G-Man Choi or a Scott Barlow? I mean, is it worth giving up prospects for that? You go back, though, and we went over a lot of those trades yesterday. It's not like they gave up anything worth. And I mean, a lot of those guys never panned out. I mean, you're just trading away something. At that point, maybe that would be worth it. I don't know if it's going to get you over the top, but is the trade market good enough? I don't necessarily know if it is.
No, and again, the reason why the trade market isn't all that good is because there's so many teams that are still remotely in it, mainly because the American League is so bad this season. It's one of those weird situations where you probably can buy, but because of the amount of teams, you probably shouldn't. But the team also isn't good enough to do it on their own. They're going to need somebody. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But this is where a guy like AJ Preller earns his money this year, is to try to find something where there really is nothing or very, very little. And what little is there isn't great.
I keep leaning towards standing pat. That's what I keep leaning towards. I mean, if they play well, they definitely have to buy on these next 10 games.
Yeah.
If they go 7-3, 8-2, you're buying. At that point,
you need a pitcher at that point.
I don't think they're going to do that. If they go 2-8, 3-7, you have to start selling some like Adrian Morejon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you do with Michael King yet, because he could opt out. I don't know if he's played well enough where he's going to opt out. I mean, maybe you could trade him and he opts out and he signed a new deal. That has happened in the past.
It has, yep.
But I wouldn't even trade Mason Miller if they went 2-8.
That just happened with Merrill. Speaking of Merrill Kelly, that just happened with him.
Right.
Arizona traded him, traded him to Texas. He opted out. Now he's back in Arizona. Signed it over the offseason.
So, but I also don't think they're going to go 2-8 or 3-7 on this road trip. These next 10 games, they go 5-5. You're the exact same spot you are starting this road trip tonight. And maybe you do stand pat. But we talked about why the Padres should sell. I mean, the offensive numbers are bad. Manny's hitting just 203 entering the second half, although he has improved recently. Jackson Merrill is not playing well. 219 average, 628 OPS, at least offensively. He's done very well defensively. Fernando's he's an elite overall player, but he only has 5 home runs. Xander had a strong first month, but is disappeared offensively afterward, although he looked like he made an adjustment with his bat that looks a lot better. The lineup simply hasn't produced, and if they haven't produced this far, why would you think they're going to produce later on? Is kind of the logic on why they should sell. Rotation is a disaster, and the playoff odds remain low. You could probably get some good value out of some of these trade chips. We talked about Xander Bogaerts' contract and what they could do with that as well. We got into that. But why should the Padres buy? I mean, if you want to look at it from this perspective of a positive kind of outlook on this, of why they should buy and add, I don't think the Padres are going to be in a position, Frank, at all to be all in and where you're trading Ethan Salas.
Absolutely not. No.
Which I didn't think that was going to be the case at the beginning of the season either. But why they should probably get to a point of like maybe buying a player or starting pitcher or something like that without giving up Ethan Salas. The remaining schedule is very favorable. Fangraphs ranks it the 5th easiest schedule remaining. Many opponents are below 500, and the Padres are 30-16 against losing teams. A hot stretch could obviously change the standings very quickly, especially since you're asking them to go 38-28. I mean, if they're 30-16 against teams that are below 500 this year, and many of their opponents are below 500 to the point that they have the 5th easiest schedule remaining, going 38-28 is even more so not impossible. It's very doable. And that's to get to 86 wins. You look at the wild card race. I mean, nobody's running away with the wild card race. Is anybody running away with the wild card race?
Nope.
Cardinals have faded already, and they might continue to fade. If the Marlins cool off, which they did before the start of the second half, the end of the first half, they got swept by Cleveland. Diamondbacks could stumble. We saw them stumbling earlier in the season. Playoff cutoff may only require 83 to 85 wins, which becomes even more realistic than it already is. You've already started to see Machado rebound. I mean, Stars could rebound in the second half. Since June 9th, Machado a 958 OPS. Looks like himself again. Fernando, since late May, 361 on base, extra base hit every 10 at-bats. He's impacting a lot of games. Maybe he gets a little bit of power back. Bogaerts historically has been an excellent second half hitter. And Jackson Merrill has proven before he could dominate after the All-Star break. He's already done it once. Plus, you could theoretically get some reinforcements. Joe Musgrove, Nick Pivetta, Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada. If even half of those guys return, the roster obviously looks a little bit different. Looks a little bit deeper than they currently have. Now, the clubhouse does remember 2023 and the collapse that they had. That team finished only 2 games out despite a terrible deadline. And players understand that opportunities disappear quickly, which means the competitive window isn't endless. And I think that leads into what our main argument was and what it continues to be on this show of you only have so many years where these guys are not going to be one of their worst in Major League Baseball. Like, these are still the good years of Manny and Xander and some of these aging veterans. And there's no guarantee it's going to be better next year. Why does standing pat make sense? I think we've made a lot of cases of why standing pat could make a lot of sense. Kevin Acee lays out a little bit more of why it could make sense. And when we come back, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to why standing pat makes sense for the San Diego Padres at the trade deadline as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number sports station 97 to the Fan. Ryan Blaney won one of NASCAR's wildest races of the season after the checkered flag flew at nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. Following a 3-hour rain delay in Atlanta, Blaney survived overtime and made a last corner pass to beat Carson Hocevar in a thrilling 3-wide finish. Bubba Wallace crossed the line second, but was penalized for driving below the double yellow, dropping all the way to 29th. Meanwhile, Justin Allgaier claimed his 6th O'Reilly Auto Parts Series win of the year to lock up the regular season championship. And Grant Effinger finally earned his first Truck Series road course victory at Lime Rock Park. Late night racing, overtime drama, controversy, and championship shakeups. Motorsports delivered another unforgettable weekend. But we start with Ryan Blaney, who won all 3 stages. His car was really dominant. He did get hit a little bit, like in the final stage, where he thought, oh, maybe it might lose a little bit of speed on the car. But he ended up dominating the entire race. He led 171 laps and locked in a pretty impressive victory, especially with the way last night's race finished.
No, it was. It was a fantastic race. And Atlanta has changed quite a bit from what it was a couple of years ago, where it was just purely drafting. It was 3 wide constantly. You couldn't really move. Now the track is starting to show a little bit of age. They've also upped the horsepower on these cars. If I'm NASCAR, I'm looking at that race last night and I'm saying I am never changing the aero package for this racetrack. It was fantastic. It was that perfect mix of drafting, slingshotting, timing your run the way Daytona and Talladega used to be back in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. But you also had that Atlanta fall off that guys like me missed because the track is starting to age. It was an unbelievable race from start to finish. Action everywhere. The rain delay kind of dampened it a little bit, no pun intended. But when the race restarted back up with more than half it to go at the end, it was nothing but incredible racing from there on out.
30 lead changes, 7 cautions, 3-hour rain delay, finished after 1:45 in the morning. I mean, Ryan Blaney took a nap in between. Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the broadcast was like, I would have crushed 6 Red Bulls. I probably would have taken a nap. I think that probably does a little bit better for the athlete than just continuing to crush Red Bulls. But Toyota continues to dominate the Cup Series. I mean, 1 week earlier at Chicagoland, it was Chase Briscoe that gave Joe Gibbs Racing another victory. I mean, Ty Gibbs was leading a lot of the race, the laps there late in Atlanta yesterday as well. But Toyota continues to separate themselves from Chevy and Ford. And I know Blaney drives a Ford, but I mean, it's been tough for both Ford and Chevy. Toyota's got their model down for their race car right now, and it's across the board with Joe Gibbs Racing and 2311. I mean, the Toyota cars are doing extremely well.
Yeah, Christopher Bell, I don't know if you heard this story on the broadcast or not, but Christopher Bell, they had to recast his wrist. So what they did was, instead of just taping up his hand and recasting it, he actually had him recast it around the wheel. So like they had he had his hand on the wheel and then recasted it that way, which is just absolutely insane. This Toyota dominance comes off the heels of some comments made by Brad Keselowski, who's one of the Ford owners, said that Ford and Chevrolet both have their babies. They have their teams. Chevrolet has Hendrick, of course. Ford has Penske, who ended up winning this race. Toyota and TRD and Toyota Racing Development don't do that. They treat all of their teams equally, and that's why you see Gibbs, 2311, and Legacy all performing very, very well, performing equally, are constantly up in the fight inside the top 10 and top 15. Chevrolet doesn't do that. And right now, Spire has been the best Chevrolet team so far this season, even though Hendrick is the one that's getting all the Chevrolet stuff first and should theoretically be up there. So what Toyota, this business model for Toyota, give everyone equal opportunity, give everyone equal stuff, and then allow the teams to work the way they do. that has really paid off in spades for Toyota this season.
Let's talk about SVG and Austin Hill becoming NASCAR's new rivalry. One storyline everyone will be watching: Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill. 2 weeks after Hill accidentally wrecked SVG at Coronado, Van Gisbergen appeared to return the favor at Chicagoland by spinning Hill into the wall. And Hill immediately accused SVG of intentional retaliation. SVG denied it. NASCAR reviewing the incident and possible penalties remain on the table. Rivalry doesn't appear to be cooling off anytime soon. But that was fun too. A couple of weeks ago between SVG and Austin. Yes, and live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. Drake Hills will join us at 1:35. He will join us in the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. All right. A lot to get to with this article from Kevin Acee earlier that came out actually yesterday after our show that we wanted to talk about: why they should buy, why they should sell. Let's talk about why they should stand pat. And I think that this is a big talking point here as well, Frank, that we have kind of talked our way into over the last couple of weeks until something drastic happens on either side. But I think this is the most realistic outcome for the Padres, because the trade market is crowded. There's 23 teams that remain in contention. There's very few sellers. There's going to be a lot of high prices, right? Because it's a buyer's market. And there's a couple other things that lay in. I mean, what do you do with labor uncertainty? There's a lot of teams that hesitate to acquire players controlled beyond 2026 because of the potential lockout, potential lost 2027 season, new CBA changes. That complicates a lot of valuations of players because you don't know how many years of control you're going to get. You don't know, whether or not guys are going to be able to, go to arbitration earlier, or go to free agency earlier. You don't know if the 2027 season is going to count or not towards service time, or whether or not you have control of that player, the counts of a year of control. I mean, there's a lot of those that go into this. And even if AJ Preller wants to buy, it takes two to tango. And another team has to cooperate. And I think that's the same if the Padres decide to sell. If you look at 2021, Padres pursued Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, and the Dodgers outbid them. And what they had to do, they did smaller moves instead, and that scenario could repeat. And those smaller moves were rough in 2021. One important takeaway, of course, is the fact that Preller is refusing to commit to an idea. I also think this is a little bit of gamesmanship from Preller, Frank, because he doesn't want to show his hand either. I mean, for AJ Preller and the Padres right now, saying that everything's on the table, I think opens up the door for better deals at the trade deadline. I know probably a lot of general managers probably know that. But if you're saying like we're selling, or if you're saying like we're buying, that kind of tips your hand for everybody else in Major League Baseball that you could potentially make deals with. I think it's a smart move for Preller to refuse to commit. I think it's smart for him to do that every single year.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to let other people know, because then they'll jack the price up on you. You do have to kind of play it coy. You do have to kind of play your card close to the chest. And AJ Preller's been very, very good at doing that over the course of his tenure as general manager. So I think standing still right now might not be the greatest option, might not be the best option optically, but I think it's the smartest one that the team currently has right now.
Hybrid moves could be on the horizon. I mean, they quoted Manny Machado in this article. You know, he continues repeating one theme. It's the guys that we have. Front office shouldn't save this team. Players must earn the reinforcements. I agree with that. If the Padres don't play better immediately, there's not going to be a trade that fixes the season anyway. So the biggest takeaways from what Kevin Acee wrote about yesterday: the next 10 games may determine the franchise direction. Although, albeit if they go 5-5, it's not going to do anything. It's going to actually make it even more complicated. Mason Miller may be the most valuable trade chip in baseball, but we talked about this yesterday, Frank. I don't necessarily think there's a big enough market for him. I mean, he might just be so expensive that nobody could reach the price tag. And you know what? That's a good place to be in if you're the Padres. You can set a price tag incredibly high, and with years of control, you can wait. You can wait for someone to reach that point.
Yep, absolutely.
Xander Bogaerts' contract continues to shape a lot of major decisions. Obviously, he hasn't lived up to that $25 million. But as we mentioned in the last segment, it's not like you could go find somebody for that $25 million during free agency that's really going to make a massive impact on the team that you currently have. We went through that already. And if you look at the biggest reason why the Padres are mediocre, it's not the bullpen, it's not the pitching staff, it's the offense. So when you look at a lot of these conversations, I think the biggest one you start with is the Mason Miller situation. I don't think they're going to get what they need to make that trade worth it to the Padres, because I think it's going to have to involve taking on Xander Bogaerts' contract. I think you're going to have to get Xander Bogaerts to agree to get traded somewhere. And I just think it's a lot of hoops that need to happen and a lot of value need to get back for that move to make sense. And as we talked about it briefly in the open. I think, and I kind of agree with our conversation that we had before the show started, I think it's probably better to extend Mason Miller than it is to potentially trade him right now, because if you were to extend him now and set a fixed cost, if you will, I think it's more like, I think he becomes more valuable, and I think he becomes easier to trade in the future if you do that. I think it's a win-win not only for Mason, but for the Padres, and then also for the future of, if things don't work out next year, they might be able to flip him because it's a fixed cost now. It's not a variable cost of, we don't know what he's going to make in arbitration. I think it's a win-win-win if that's the case.
Yeah, for sure. And you get him, you either lock him down, or as you just said, you either have the other team that knows that goes to trade for him. They know what he's getting. And also, it most likely, if he does it now, we talked about it at the beginning, may or may not actually have to conform with the new CBA, and if there is a salary cap in there.
Yeah, we don't know how that's going to play out. But if you had to pick a time for signing guys, I think it's probably more beneficial to get that done before the new CBA than wait for after the CBA, especially if you don't know what those rules are going to be. But do you think a 6-year deal where you buy out the next 3 years of arbitration and extend them 3 additional years for Mason Miller for $20 million a year, so like 6-year, 120? Do you think that gets it done for Mason? Do you think that gets it done for the Padres? Do you think they can afford something like that? I don't know how much more over that I would be. I mean, you would have to start looking at some of the comps of what he was getting in what like Josh Hader got in arbitration, what Edwin Diaz got in arbitration when they were younger. But Mason Miller right now, he's not a spring chicken. He's going to be 28 years old. I mean, at the end of the season, he'll be 28. He's 27.9. If you buy out those 3 years and then 3 extension years, you're going to have him for age 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. He'll be a free agent when he's 33 years old, and if he'd be making $20 million a year, who knows what it's going to look like in free agency with a salary cap, and whether or not somebody's willing to pay a lot of money for a closer when it starts to affect the other aspects of the team. I think that's a fair deal for both sides. A 6-year, $120 million contract extension.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to that. I would not be opposed to that either. I mean, it's on par with what everyone else has gotten, and while it may not be what he would be looking for as far as money and how good he's been for that money, it's kind of hard to say no, especially when the future is so uncertain as far as how much money he could potentially make under a salary cap league.
I'd have to go back, Josh Hader 2022, 2023 was like the end of his arbitration, right? Because that's when he was on the Brewers and the Padres. And so, like, if we go back to what that number was, maybe you can see and make the comparison. I mean, in 2023,
Whew. Hader in arbitration 2022, he was at 11 million.
you got 14.1
Yep,
in
14.1 in
2023.
23.
And how old is he?
Right now he's 32.
Right now he's 32, so he was around 28, 29.
Something like that, yeah.
It's like 3 years ago, right? I mean, 14 million in arbitration. I mean, if you gave him like 18 to 19 million dollars, I mean, it'd be more than what you would get in arbitration for a closer. I mean, Josh Hader signed a 5-year, $95 million deal where he's making $19 million a year. I mean, if you get a little bit more than that, it's gonna be way more than what he would get in arbitration. And it's going to be probably fair value for a closer on the open market. And now you have arguably the best bullpen arm in Major League Baseball on your team until he's 33. And that probably is an affordable contract the next 2 or 3 years, just based on the way the contracts are going. I mean, you can't get solid. Think about the starting pitching that's going for like $20 million now. We just went over that. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I think it's almost more valuable that way, because the other thing too, as we mentioned, because somebody in the chat doesn't want to think outside the box about, like, you can't slide a closer when you don't know how good the team's going to be. It's crazy talk. Well, you know what it does, buddy? It sets a fixed cost of what he is, and so teams can understand what they're trading for instead of like, what's this arbitration number? It probably makes it more valuable. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to JD and Santee. JD, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Great show. Phenomenal show.
Thank you.
Just frustrating, lifelong Padre fan my entire life. My father, my kids, everybody. And I rarely ever hear people talk about the culture. The culture is not fine there. And it's not just there. It's wherever you are that you consistently are disappointing. Okay. What other successful teams have you ever seen that go through managers every 2 years? What are the odds of Merrill, Cronenworth, Tatis, Bogarts, Machado having down years? It's just a coincidence. And I'm so tired of people talking about Tatis being an elite player. Tatis is the most talented player in the MLB, in my opinion, aside from Ohtani. However, superstars are Schwarber, who puts up big numbers every year. Ohtani, who puts up big numbers every year. They don't get suspended. They're not flashy. It's like these guys walk around with it's just, and people are afraid to, like, call it like it is. And not you guys. That's why I like your guys' show so much, because you guys just tell it like it is. But it's amazing that, this has been going on for years. Go back a couple years ago. You only got to win, one of the next 2 games. And I remember Derek Jeter, it was the Dodgers. Jeter's doing the commentary before the game. He goes, I've been in a lot of these. He goes, bullpen games hardly ever work out. What do the Dodgers do? This guy comes out in the first. This guy comes out in the second. This guy comes out in third. And they all shove it to the Padres. It happens year after year. And people talk about, oh, yeah, this team's, looks like they're not going to win a World Series. This team hasn't been to a World Series. It's just very frustrating. 60 years, this town wants a winner. This organization continues to raise the ticket prices. The fans pack the place night in and night out. The weather is the perfect place to play baseball in the country. And I just think it's taken for granted by the players in the organization. The fan base couldn't be, in my opinion, any better. But what are the odds of all of those guys that I mentioned? Is Merrill's best year going to be his rookie year, just like Cronenworth was? Is Tatis really better than he was 5 years ago? No, he's not. His numbers don't show the same. Bogarts, great player in Boston. Oh yeah, well, he just hasn't got it going. And a lot of those guys are good guys. They're hard-nosed guys. I think they want to win, but it's like it's just frustrating. And I don't think people talk about the culture enough. And why do the Dodgers win? In football, why do the Patriots win year in and year out? Why do the Lakers win championships in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? Certain programs, just like business, are successful. They're not. And it drives me nuts. It's always an excuse. Oh, this guy's hurt. This guy's this. This guy's that. Just not you guys, because you guys kind of call it like it is. there's no, I don't know, but I thank you guys for letting me rant a little bit, but I believe wholeheartedly in that. And I think a lot of the fans do, and I appreciate you letting me speak on it.
Absolutely, JD. We appreciate the phone call, man. Obviously, let the fans talk a little bit, and some fans feel like that. I mean, he brings up a lot of good points about, question. I mean, I've been part of very good teams and organizations. I've been around and a part of bad teams and organizations, and a lot of the culture and clubhouse stuff is very valid. And I think, for an organization that talks about, and they say all the right things in spring training, and we hear it from local media about the clubhouse, everything like that. I'm not in there all the time, and there's a lot of time. And here's the other thing about the media. They're not on the plane with the team. They're not in the team hotel. They're not behind the closed doors. And so nobody will really fully understand what it's like culture-wise in the Padres clubhouse. And the clubhouse could be great, but we're never going to know. But there are some questions about whether or not, there's questions based on how is it possible? Like he brought up, how is it possible that every player is having a career worst year the same year? How is that possible? And when you look up to LA and they have aging veterans too, and they're all seem to be playing at their best. And the only one that's not is Mookie Betts, but he's starting to turn it around, right? How is it possible? How is it possible that two managers end up leaving on their own, right? I mean, it's a lot of questions. It could all be a coincidence. But I think that's why a lot of fans ask the question about the culture. And, we can't really speak on it. The only ones that really can are the players and the organization themselves. And they keep things under wraps, which I think is fine, as they should. You don't need anybody to know. That's why Bill Belichick used to give his answer. Keep everything in-house. But there are a lot of questions that I think raise, and there's a reason why people think like this based on some of the results that you have seen. Now, this is a team that is still very good, and you can win with, guys that aren't necessarily the best clubhouse guys. I don't think any of the Padres are that bad of clubhouse guys, to be honest with you. They all seem to get along. And I think this team in particular has been the closest team that I have seen in my almost 10 years now of being down there every once in a while and covering this team. This has been the closest team that they have had. They have had far worse situations. And I think the clubhouse is getting a lot better than what it was. I think there's a lot of establishing what it's going to be the San Diego Padres, right? Because this is brand new for this organization. They have never had this kind of level of star power. They've never had, big contract guys. They've never had consistently, rosters that have consistently made the playoffs. They just have never had any of those. But when you look at a lot of organizations, there's a lot of organizations that win that are very good behind the scenes. There's a lot of organizations that win because they're very talented and they overcome a lot of the bad stuff they have behind the scenes. So I get where he's coming from. I don't necessarily know if that's the case per se, but it does raise the question. And based on, the way the team has played and the way that some guys have played here and then have played elsewhere, I think raises a lot of questions for some fans about, what's going on behind the scenes. But I don't really think that's that big of a deal. And here's the other thing too. I've talked to people within the organization, and when the stuff was coming out about maybe a rift between Manny and Fernando back in the day, and then the Juan Soto aspect, and you were hearing the rumors, there was a lot of people that were like, that's it was getting blown out of proportion of what actually was going on. And I think a lot of that happens too. And I think that leads to more fans being skeptical about the, culture. Nobody's going to know the culture except for the 26 guys in that room and the coaching staff in the front office. And that's basically it. I mean, everything else outside of that, reports by our local media, sources, that here and there. Here, It's all telephone and it's all rumors. But I don't think that's the biggest problem with this team. I think, honestly, again, as you mentioned, you got guys that aren't performing at the level they should be. And we'll see what happens in the second half. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show continues. San Diego's Urban Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 11:42 on the Braden Surprenant Show on a Friday. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to the show today. Just getting ready for Padres baseball this afternoon. 5:10 start, 4:10 Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. It's good to be back. It's good to have Padres baseball back. Talking a lot about the trade deadline, talking a lot about what could potential moves the Padres could make. They could buy, they could sell, they could stand pat. Want to know what you guys think. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. Let's get out to Dustin in San Diego. Dustin, what's going on, man?
Excited for these next 66. It's what it's all about. You know, you guys have alluded to it. Your previous caller talked about it as well. You know, for Padres fans, this is kind of the golden era. And so to even have ourselves in the mix year in and year out is a good thing. And as far as the trade deadline, you guys are on to something. I think the standing pat is probably the smartest move, depending on what they do here in the next 10 to 15 games. Because what you're getting back, I mean, you are buying by getting all your injured guys back. So if you get Pavetta back and if you get Musgrove back and you get Estrada and Adam back, those are all big buys without having to buy. And I think you said it earlier, the reason why the Pods are where they're at now is because of the offense. But if you start looking back towards the end of June, the offense has done better. And some of that is bringing a guy like Samad Taylor up and a little bit of energy and even having Duran there as opposed to Fermin. I mean, standing pat's the way to go. You don't want to start selling off the Salises and the Mayfields and the Schoolcrafts and some of these other guys. I think you just hold tight. If you can buy, strategically without having to give up that kind of stuff, then I think you're in a better place. Just stick with it. Let your guys be the guys. Get the guys back that are injured, and basically you're a better team. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate the phone call, Dustin. I mean, the only caveat to that, though, Frank, is that's a lot of ifs. Like, you have to get all of those players back, and then they have to all pitch close to, like, their average, right? For it to make a lot of sense. I mean, that's a lot. That's asking kind of a lot. I mean, you haven't seen Joe Musgrove in, like, almost 2 years now. And he's going to come back and not be rusty at all? I mean, that's a big if. I mean, I get what Dustin's saying, and it kind of goes with what we were talking about standing pat. You get a little bit of an ad, but you got to hope that, first of all, they come back, and two, that they can perform at a level that actually helps you and is not a detriment, which is it's asking those guys to do a lot. I mean, Joe Musgrove doesn't get a spring training, a ramp up of, I mean, he's going to be if he does come back, he's going to be thrown back when it's like everybody's built up and ready to go. Sure, he'll be a little bit fresher if he does come back, but it's asking a lot for him to go out there and look like he did.
Though? For a guy who hasn't seen major league hitters,
his body's going to be a lot more fresh than anybody who's been pitching. His body
will be.
That's what I'm talking about.
But will his arm, for a guy who hasn't gone out there and done it for almost 2 years?
Yeah, his arm's going to be way more fresh. It might not be as effective, but it's going to be fresh. I mean, he's not using it, right? I mean, so like he's going to have a fresher arm than anybody that's pitched this entire season. It might not be as effective, but it's going to be not used, which means it's going to be a little bit more fresh.
That is for sure, yes.
So, I mean, that from that perspective, yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean he's going to be as effective as Michael King or dominant or as effective as anybody else in Major League Baseball, but it will be, I mean, it will be rested. I mean, when you go out there and when you don't throw for a long time, that first couple times that you're like fully healthy and can throw, you feel good because you haven't thrown in a long time. You don't feel like that at the end of the season. You don't even feel like that in the middle of the season. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. We'll take a break from this Padres conversation to get to what else is going on in sports with today's sports thread.
You know that group chat, the one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Frank, what we got going on today?
I'm going to be very careful how I do this one because I'm a New Yorker.
Oh, boy.
And because I'm a New Yorker, things sound a certain way that I do not mean them to sound. So I'm going to be very, very deliberate with how I say this.
Number 1.
Argentina's World Cup semifinal victory over England has sparked controversy. Go figure.
No way.
After several players celebrated with a banner reading, the Malvinas are Argentine, referencing Argentina's claim over the British-controlled Falkland Islands. The British government has urged FIFA to investigate, arguing the display violated rules against political messaging at sporting events. FIFA is reviewing the incident, though any punishment is expected to be limited to a fine and is unlikely to affect the World Cup final against Spain. The incident has reignited one of soccer's biggest rivalries. Did Argentina players cross the line by bringing the Falkland Islands into the World Cup celebration, or should athletes be free to express national pride, even when it does involve controversial issues?
I mean, probably, I don't know. That was what, in the 1800s?
No.
Well, then they had it again in 1982.
The
happened a couple times.
Yeah, the Falkland Islands have been under dispute for quite some time now.
Yeah, I mean, you probably should stay out of foreign political and war affairs in this sort of thing. I mean, it wouldn't really be appropriate for anybody that is, currently going through that stuff or recently, throwing in. Yeah, you can't pull the scoreboard thing on war and death and destruction. It's probably not the greatest of ideas.
No.
Yeah,
I
am against this.
Yeah. So let's leave the Falkland Islands alone now forever.
Number 2.
The Reds are making a major investment in their future, signing rookie sensation Chase Burns to a 7-year, $105 million contract extension. Burns has been one of baseball's breakout stars, going 11-1 with a 2.54 ERA while showcasing an electric fastball slider combination that has him in the early Cy Young conversation. Cincinnati is betting that Burns and fellow ace Hunter Green can anchor the rotation for years to come, even as the Reds struggle near the bottom of the National League Central due to a lackluster offense. Did the Reds make the right move by locking up Burns early, or is this giving 9 figures to a pitcher with just one full season in the major leagues?
This is kind of what you have to do if you're a team like the Reds, right? If you're a mid-market, I mean, Cincinnati's relatively a big city. It's a traditional team, but they haven't been a big spending team. I just think this is what you have to do in order to get players to stay. And you know what? It makes it more affordable in the future. I think that's better than his value going up even more. And then potentially having to deal with him walking at the end of his deal, or you have to trade him. If you like the pitcher and if you want to be part of the team, you sign him when it's early. I also think it's not a big mystery about Chase Burns in terms of what he's going to bring to the table. I mean, he played college baseball. He played college baseball for a long time. He played on 2 different teams. You've seen him. He's developed. It's not like this is a high school product they had and don't know what he's going to develop into. I think it's different with college pitchers. I mean, he's older too. So I think it's the right move. They need to help solidify the rotation, get some young talent in there. I think that's better. You don't want to see those guys leave.
Number 3.
As the Major League Baseball trade deadline approaches, Tigers ace Tarik Skubal finds himself at the center of one of baseball's biggest storylines. The reigning back-to-back Cy Young winner is headed for free agency after the season, leaving Detroit with a difficult choice. Trade their franchise top pitcher for a haul of prospects or keep him to make a push for a third straight postseason appearance. Despite the speculation, Skubal remains focused on winning and publicly expressed confidence in his teammates, while the Tigers front office must decide whether to buy, sell, or risk losing one of the game's best pitchers for only a compensatory draft pick. If you are the Tigers, do you trade Skubal now to maximize his value or keep the ace and make one last playoff run, even if it means losing him in free agency?
I don't think they're getting him in free agency, period. So based on that, and them being, well, they're only 3.5 games out of a wild card.
Like the comment I sent to you, the Tigers are going full Artie Moreno. Got to respect it.
But like not really though, because
they actually have a playoff chance.
They're 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. It's not like, what was the last year Ohtani was in Anaheim?
They haven't
2023.
They haven't made the playoffs in I don't know how long. So.
I know, but so 2023 is the last time that he was in Anaheim, right?
Sure.
And you think about like around their trade deadline, like July 31st.
Let's see where they were. Let's see where the final standings were in 2023.
In 2023, the Angels on July 31st were 3 games out of a wild card spot, 56 and 51.
They ended 17 games out at 73 and 89. That's how they ended the season that year.
I mean, they're kind of in the same position the Angels were in, so that kind of defeats that argument I had. But if they were way out, I think it would be worth it. But they're only 3.5 games out. I mean, they're in the same position the Padres are in. The only difference is the Padres are 500 and the Tigers are under 500. I think they should keep them now. I mean, I thought originally when you asked this question, and I'm sure we were going to get to it today at some point because they announced that they didn't want to trade him.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. I mean, they have a they have a positive run differential. They came into the season with expectation. They had so many injuries.
Yeah, their whole starting rotation was
right.
down at
Like
one point.
they're still alive. One last ride for Tarik Skubal, I think, is probably better. And it's way better to make the playoffs than to not make the playoffs. If he's not coming back anyway, go for it.
Well, there you go.
And, I mean, I guess you can get a haul for Tarik Skubal, but what does that mean? You have to have the right people, though, to say yes. Unless something blows their socks off, I think Tarik Skubal is going to be a Tiger. New lunchtime hour when we come back.
The takes hit different here.
You know, everybody's all worried about the Padres not hitting home runs. The Padres don't need to hit home runs to win games. The home runs are going to come. It's finding different ways to win.
This is the Braden Surprenant Show.
New lunchtime hour on the Fan. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, setting us number one sports station, 97.3. The Fan. I want to get back to your phone calls here in just a little bit. I did see this. I have to give and they don't know I'm doing this. I don't know. I know nothing, nor anybody on this team. But I have to say, as a former Scripps Ranch Little League player, former Scripps Ranch Little League All-Star, I want to give a congratulations to the Majors team who just won Section 6 for the first time and is representing not only District 32, but Section 6 in the Southern California State Tournament. That will now be starting on July 25th. They'll play their first game. It's the first time Scripps Ranch Little League has ever won Section 6, which is super cool. So congratulations to those kids, the families, the coaches. So they will be in the Southern California State Championships. So at this point, this is the team that is the one that's eligible for the Little League World Series. It's the Majors division, which I think they call now Little League or whatever. Because they have tournaments 8 to 10-year-old baseball, 9 to 11. They have Little League, Intermediate, Junior, Senior League, all that stuff. So they will be playing at District 55, which it's going to be at Woodfield Park in Aliso Viejo, California. And they are not the only San Diego team representing. Sweetwater Valley from District 42 will also be up there. So as of right now, when tracking the Little League World Series, which San Diego has been blessed to have multiple teams, represent us. We have had multiple teams win the Little League World Series. We have 2 right now. They have to play in a double elimination. Looks like a 11-team bracket, if I'm not mistaken. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. 11-team bracket, double elim. You have to win 5 games to make it out of this double elimination tournament. If they lose and go to the losers bracket, I think the most games you would play is 8 that you would have to make it through, or 8 to win it all. So from here, they will, if whoever wins this particular tournament, and hopefully it's either Scripps Ranch or Sweetwater Valley, they would then represent Southern California in the West Regional, which will be in San Bernardino. The winner of the West Regional, which I don't know how many states are involved now. They've had to kind of finagle it because California and Hawaii would win all the time. If they win the West Regional, then they would represent the West in the Little League World Series. So we have 2 teams left. They will get their action underway, not this weekend, but next weekend on July 25th. Scripps Ranch will play Eastvale at a District 72 at 1 o'clock on Field 4 up in Aliso Viejo. Sweetwater Valley will also play at 1 o'clock on Field 6. They will take it on the Section 5 winner, which I guess has not been announced yet on the bracket. So congratulations to those teams. I think it's pretty cool. I like to, usually this is around the time of year, I like to check in to see if we have any teams left. But the fact that it was my Little League that I played in way back in the day, congratulations to Scripps Ranch Little League winning Section 6 for the first time. My level, so that they have one Scripps Ranch team now, I think, to try to give them the best chance to get to Williamsport. When I was there, it was broken up into 2, Scripps Ranch American and Scripps Ranch National. If they were to combine our teams back in the day, we probably would have had a better chance of winning Section 6 after winning District 32. I was on the American League All-Star team when I was 12. We made it to the top 4 in District 32. The National League team won for Scripps Ranch. They went on to go to sectionals. They won the first 2. They had to get beat twice in sectionals, and Solana Beach beat them twice. I remember I knew one kid from that team because I played high school baseball with him. Hayden Grant was on that team. He ended up going to Purdue. But that Solana Beach team made it to the final of the West Regional, and they lost to Chandler. And you know who was on that Chandler team that went to the Little League World Series that beat Solana Beach in 2007. Cody Bellinger was on that Chandler team that year. So it's pretty cool. There's been a handful of guys that have gone on to play college baseball, have gone on to play in the pros. The late, great Sean Burroughs played in the Little League World Series. There's been a handful of big leaguers that have been able to play in the Little League World Series. I think it's always fun. I have never been to Williamsport. I think it'd be kind of cool to go once. I know Ben Higgins has gone a couple of times covering some of these teams, but a big shout out to Scripps Ranch Little League and Sweetwater Valley for making the sectionals. So we have 2 of the 11 teams are from San Diego in the SoCal Regional. Hopefully one of those is able to win the SoCal Regional and represent us in the West Regional. So I wanted to get that out there. I saw that earlier this morning. I saw the post from Scripps Ranch Little League. They won it yesterday. They won Section 6 yesterday, 3-2. That was hosted by Claremont Hilltoppers Little League, which, by the way, is still my favorite Little League field to play at when I was a kid. Claremont Hilltoppers Little League is awesome. They have the when I was a kid, Scripps Ranch never had grass infields, and they still don't. Claremont Hilltoppers has grass infield. They got a pristine fence. They got a great scoreboard. I mean, I think it was like a junior Padres field at one time. Awesome press box. It was like one of the best Little Leagues to play at, especially for this age group, the 12-year-old age group. The other cool field is in Coronado, where my brother played All-Stars one time. That Coronado field, it's not the ones that you see off the bridge. It's closer to I think it's the Stater Brothers over there or something like that. It's one of the coolest looking Little League fields ever. It's pretty awesome on the island. But big shout out to Sweetwater Valley and Scripps Ranch Little League for winning their sections. So now it goes on to SoCal Regional, and then it will go to the West Regional, and then from there it's Williamsport. And you wonder why the West region wins all the time. Think about all the District 32's got 16 teams. So you got to win that double elimination tournament. Then you get to sectionals, and sectionals you got to win a best of, it's a double M of basically 4 teams that are all good, because Southern California baseball is better than most of these areas. Then they got to go on to SoCal Regional. Then you got to win the West Regional. And then you got some team in Iowa that wins 4 games and they're going to Williamsport. A little bit different of a path for our kids out here in SoCal. So pretty cool for them. I think that's awesome that they're able to make it.
Hey, remember, you guys are going to state, and as South Park taught us, those kids are good enough to hit the bat even when you're trying not to swing. So just keep that in mind.
Super hyped for the local kids. Even more hyped as a Scripps Ranch Little League alumni, if you will, out there. So congrats to those guys for making it. That's what brought it on my radar. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Vince in Chula Vista. Vince, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, man?
Hey, Braden. Always good talking to you. I just had to mention first off, anytime your bumper music is Kashmir by Zeppelin, good on you, brother. Way to go.
Thank you.
I kind of enjoyed that. So well done. Well done there. And just a quick comment on the Little League. Yeah, we are blessed down here in San Diego. Chula Vista has a number of representatives, right? Eastlake won it a number of years back there, a quarter of a mile from where I live. And so I remember that vividly. Sweetwater Valley did really well. Parkview, I believe Parkview may have won it. So
yes, we
are definitely blessed down here. So go boys, hit them where they ain't. And then lastly, about the Padres, it's interesting with Mason Miller, or at least to me, it's interesting. He could be a luxury that we just, depending upon what the brain trust with the Padres are going to do going forward, 48 and 48, they're going to have a stellar back end to compete for a wild card. And so you got to entertain, I think, some of the bigger offers that are going to come in from some of the bigger teams. They're all going to look for that arm. He's the best in baseball right now, under control for a number of years. And so the haul that comes back, you would expect to be big. I don't know about combining other names along with Mason Mill. Those are always interesting to read and look about, but I don't know if there's much traction there at all. But again, I go back to there can be an argument made now about whether or not they're going to be sellers or buyers at the trade deadline, or they just simply hold pat. Because the problem with the team, you know, as I could see it, the issues with the team, they're not cultural, they're not that kind of thing. They simply just don't have the arms in the rotation, the starting rotation, to compete. You can't have your starters get 12 outs or at the top end 15 outs and then think you're going to compete with teams like Philadelphia, like Atlanta, like LA, you know, that kind of thing. And so anyway, guys, it's going to be interesting as they get closer to the end of the trade deadline for sure. But again, thank you, Braden. You got the best show out here. I really do appreciate each and every time you let me on to kind of participate. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Thank you very much, Vince. We appreciate the phone call, man. They need better pitching. That was brought up on the roundtable. They were listing some of the names that, that were dominant pitchers. And it's like, there's a lot of guys that are drafted in the top 10 picks that the Padres can't even get to. Now, Mizorowski was missed on everybody. He went in the second round. And so that's worked out for the Brewers. But there's a lot of top guys like Chase Burns drafted in the first five or so picks. Sometimes you don't have access to some of those guys. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. It's got to Juan in Oceanside. Juan, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Braden? I actually want to piggyback off the conversation about starting pitching because I was listening to a podcast with Marty Caswell and AJ Cassavell about how the timeline for Joe Musgrove seems to be mid-August, and for Nick Pivetta, maybe early August, depending on how things go. Obviously, things can change. If that is true, so obviously we would get both these pitchers post-trade deadline. What exactly do you trade for, and how many arms do you go for, knowing that at the very least you get one of those two guys back relatively soon?
I just the problem with waiting that out, one is, even if we just talked about this, but even if you get them back, you got to hope that they come back and they're close to what they were, right? I mean, otherwise it's like, if you get those guys back and they pitch like JP Sears, or they pitch like Matt Waldron, or some of the guys that obviously are not cutting it right now for your rotation, is it really like adding anybody at that point? I think we're just all assuming that they're going to come back and be close to what they were. It's just, not only do you need them to come back, but you need them to come back and then pitch close to what they were. And so from that perspective, I think even if you do get those guys, this team needs two starting pitchers. I don't necessarily know, Frank, if you get those guys back, only adding one's going to get the job done. I think it'd be risky. I think you'd be taking a massive chance, but you are hoping for like one of those guys to come back, and then you're hoping to maybe grab two guys off the trade waiver, off the trade wire, if you will, that are solid pitchers, but they're not going to be something that's going to cost a lot. This is where you're in a little bit of a difficult spot because of the fact that there's so many teams still alive.
Yeah, you'd kind of be looking at one guy who you could trade in, and then one of the two, either Pivetta or Musgrove, that you hope kind of returns to form. That would kind of be, I think, what the Padres would be leaning on here at this trade deadline.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Think about this too. We talked about like the Red Sox about a month ago were the team that maybe you could make a deal with because they were out of it. They have been on a tear, and look what they're doing right now. They're up 9-0 on the Tampa Bay Rays.
They're whipping Raymond for doing what he did.
You're still upset about that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, mad at Dinger. You had 2 bombs. It's Raymond that you're mad at.
Raymond had a couple of big defensive
You know
plays.
what? And you were smack talking Raymond. Why would you drive? Who's Raymond guy? What's this? Almost no ball. Sleeper pick. Raymond was a sleeper pick. You missed on him. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973.
I was never drafting him anyway after
Baxter also sleeper pick. Robbed the home run. We got full phone lines. Let's get out to Brad and Escondido. Brad, what's going on?
Gentlemen, this is Brad driving through New Mexico as I resettle into
Brad in the land of enchantment. Have you stopped at the thing yet? Have you stopped at the thing, Brad?
I have not done that. I'm looking for a mountain. I haven't seen one in 100 miles.
Yeah, you're not going to see one for another 100 miles either. As somebody that has done that drive, and you got to go a lot further than I did, God bless you. You're about to go through hell in the next 100 miles or so.
Thank you. My goal is Austin, Texas, when I'm finished. So we'll see where we go. Hey, shout out to my little bro, Scott and RB. And Frank, you are the Ed McMahon of the Tonight Show. I just want to say how good you are, man.
Thank you very much, Brad.
You got it. Hey, for the Padres fans, take a deep breath, and I'll say this for 20 years. Keep the faith. We'll get there. This is the second half. We got here with broken parts. The parts are healing. The bike is on the path. We're doing well. Ring the little bell. We'll bring it home, boys. From New Mexico, Brad out.
All right, see you, Brad. He's going to be driving straight for a long time.
Yep, as someone else who's done that drive multiple times.
I don't know where they get Land of Enchantment from. That I dislike New Mexico. There is not one part. Now, I haven't been to Santa Fe. I heard Santa Fe is very nice. So I guess I can't judge the state based on Las Cruces and the Carlsbad Caverns or whatever they're called that I didn't go to. Not a place I'd like to be, New Mexico. It's just not a place I'd like to be. Absolutely not.
Always remember, most crucial, Brad, especially since you're driving through there right now, always take the left turn at Albuquerque. Always.
Land of Enchantment, my behind.
You don't take the left turn at Albuquerque, you will end up somewhere you were not supposed to be.
It doesn't get better. I will say this. I agree with SD Mike. It doesn't get better. Once you get to El Paso, it's like New Mexico, but there's no vegetation. There's nothing living anymore. It's just barren wasteland, and then it starts smelling like oil. And that's it. But I will say this. You should go check out the thing. Brad in the Land of Enchantment needs to stop at the thing for gas. And, go Aztecs. I wonder if he stopped at Four Corners. If his target is Austin, he is not going to Four Corners because that's in the exact opposite direction of where he's going. He's probably on Interstate 10, whipping through the bottom half of New Mexico. And in there somewhere is the thing. He might have already passed it. Everybody goes, what's at the thing? What is the thing? That would eliminate the surprise. Go to the thing. It's like $2. You can get gas there. Everybody in my family is now seeing the thing, except for one. He blew past it. He was trying to get to Tucson. He messed up. Got to see the thing. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. We need to take a break. Tim, Kevin, David, Brandon. We will get to you when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. Static Number Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Welcome to the MLB All-Star break. I don't know if you've noticed that during our live shows, as we are in a commercial break if you're watching this on YouTube. But it means there's, it's not too much going on in the Major League Baseball world. And we're getting closer to trade deadline talks, obviously. But it's also time to hand out some midseason awards. In the American League, Yordan Alvarez has been unstoppable. He's carrying the Astros offense and putting together an MVP caliber season. In the NL, it's possible ignore Shohei Ohtani, even though we want to here in San Diego. Even when his hitting alone isn't enough, he adds elite pitching on top of it, and that's why he remains the favorite for the MVP. The biggest disappointment, Vlad Guerrero Jr. struggling after signing a massive contract. Where have we heard that before? And the Mets offseason additions failing to produce. Why do you put that in there, Frank? I don't know. Why do you torture yourself? But the biggest surprise, have been the breakout stars. Jacob Mizorowski dominating hitters with his historic fastball. Kevin McGonigal looking like a future superstar. Padres closer Mason Miller becoming one of baseball's most unhittable pitchers. Second half is coming. Will the superstars continue to rule baseball, or are we watching the new generation take over? MLB reaches the All-Star break. Time to hand out some hardware of some first half awards, Frank.
Yeah, we'll start off with the American League MVP. Yordan Alvarez has been so good. He has been carrying the Houston Astros lineup and putting together one of the most dominant offensive seasons in baseball, threatening to finish among the league leaders in every major offensive category: runs, hits, homers, RBIs, on base, slugging, OPS. What makes this season even more impressive is the context. The Astros are not the same offensive machine that we saw in previous years. They have so many holes in that lineup, but Alvarez has been the one consistent potential triple crown watch for a guy like Yordan Alvarez at this point.
And the National League, can you give it to anybody besides Ohtani again? I mean,
you could.
At some
Are we
point,
gonna? No.
I mean, he's been better than everybody else. I mean, he could do things pitching and hitting at an elite level that nobody else can do. At some point, baseball may need to create a separate award just for him, because the MVP almost feels impossible when you start factoring everything he does. I mean, obviously, the argument against Ohtani is that he's hitting alone may not be enough this season compared to other candidates. But then again, he's also pitching. And that's what separates him from everybody else, which coincides with why I dislike awards to begin with, because we get to a point where he's just going to win every single year. Pete Crow Armstrong, Kyle Schwarber, they're having tremendous seasons, but they're also not pitching at an elite level. They're just doing one thing. This guy's continued to do two. And if he does one of those things elite, it's usually enough for an MVP award, because you could do two things. You count for two players, and a lot of the rules are set in favor for you, which is kind of why it's a little weird that he's not playing in the All-Star game. I mean, for everything Major League Baseball has done for this guy, separate rule, allowing him to defer money, putting in another rule where he is allowed to pitch and hit. I mean, yeah, you would think he'd show up and take a hack at least at the All-Star game, right?
One would definitely think. One guy who is not taking a hack at the All-Star game because he declined it, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He has been probably the LVP, least valuable player. Right now for Toronto. This might be the most shocking selection of the group. A player who just signed a massive contract, was expected to be the face of the Blue Jays offense, has been struggling badly. His power, much the same way as we saw with another junior this season, his power is gone. His power has completely disappeared. He's not been able to drive the ball consistently in the air. And for a team with postseason expectations, his struggles have been really, really devastating for Toronto, as we just saw here last weekend.
Yeah, the Blue Jays obviously need the superstar of Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the second half if they want to compete, as they're 2.5 games out of a wild card spot as of Monday. The Mets, NL LVP, least valuable player, is the entire team. This season has not gone according to plan in New York. The Mets have had several major additions in which they expected to build a championship contender, but injuries and underperformance have created a nightmare scenario. Marcus Semien has struggled. Luis Robert Jr. has dealt with injuries. Jorge Polanco has barely been available. Even Freddie Peralta, who is expected to anchor the rotation, has not lived up to expectations. The Mets have entered a year with big expectations, but the first half has been defined by disappointment. But you look at the list of cast of characters. I mean, Marcus Semien. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. Santa Cruz Urban Sports Station 97.3. The Fan. Good to be with all of you on a Friday. Padres baseball is back tonight at 5:10. Michael King, Seth Lugo is the matchup as the Padres start a 3-game series with the Kansas City Royals before they move on to play the Atlanta Braves, before they move on to play the Miami Marlins. A very important 10-game stretch on the road. We'll figure out what they want to do with the trade deadline after these 10 games.
And for the month, at least from what I can recall, we will be off next Thursday because of the game in Atlanta.
That is correct.
And then the Wednesday after that, the last Wednesday of July, we will be up in the loft for the series finale, the 2-game series finale of the series against the Rockies.
Is that the scheduled doubleheader with that we had from the schedule that may or may not happen?
That's next year.
Allegedly. You know, that series against the Rockies, they had the poncho giveaway.
Yes.
That was a comfortable poncho, was it not?
It was.
That's over there.
It was good.
You going to walk off with it?
No.
Why not?
I don't need a poncho.
Everybody needs a poncho. Get your tickets at Padres.com. You also have the home and away bucket hat 2 days later on the Thursday against the Gigantes. That is the day before football starts. Shout out to Lonzo in our YouTube chat who said they just completed Crucible.
Congratulations,
well done,
guys.
So they had to do my update on Crucible from yesterday. I guess they did pretty well with the seals yesterday, which is great. There you go, going, or. Oh, wait, not those seals. They had other seals there. They did pretty well, but there was a lot of things that they had to do. And we have a couple of minutes here. We do want to get back to your phone calls as well. I mentioned to you before the last couple of days, this stuff is like, it's not hard unless you make it hard. So they have a drill like they have to do. Build the house is hard to explain, so I'm not going to get to that, but that got a lot of guys yesterday. But they have to do in their little teams, their eight team. There's 8 teams and 8 guys in each team. They have like 2x4s, like these planks, and they have to all collectively push them across the field, like from sideline to sideline. They actually went sideline to opposite hash marks, so they didn't have to go that far. But as part of this, they're not allowed to have their hands come off the board at any point. Like they have to have both hands on the board or like touching the board at all times, or otherwise they start over. They had to stay within their 10-yard increments. So like team 1 was between the goal line and the 10-yard line. Mm-hmm. Team 2 was between the 10-yard line and the 20-yard line. And if they went out of there, send them back. Mm-hmm. If they were moving and their knees touched the ground as they were moving, send them back. So those were some of the nuances. Lonzo's team was pushing the board. And poor Lonzo, he was telling them to stop. He was about to give way. He's like, we got to stop. We got to stop. Like, no, keep pushing forward. He slips off the board. They keep going. He's laying outstretched like he tried to slide into third base.
I told you
head
guys.
First. And then they go, oh, no. Because they already know.
I told you.
They already know that his hands are off the board. So they got to start over anyway. I walk over. Again, he looks like he just slid into third base. I point. I go, show me the ball. Show me the ball. Out. Sent their ass back. It's good stuff, you know? It's great. They didn't think it was as funny as I did. I thought that was pretty funny. I obviously wasn't having to push planks. Right there. Show me the ball. Bang. Start over. I got a couple of those guys on that. You're not supposed to help them like with the mental side of it. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to I kind of threw out some hints about them turning the board around. And they started to do it. Unfortunately, one of the sophomores stood up and took both his hands off the board as I was standing there. And I'm like, start over. They were so mad. They're like, why? They were like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you not see Parker standing there? And they look at him, and then they come to a realization that he's standing straight up and down, which means his hands are not touching the board. Immediate. Had to go back. Other than that, they did pretty well. One of the best ones. They did a great job with this. One of the ones that they have to do is they have to clean out the entire weight room. Everything in the weight room that's not bolted down has to leave. and get stacked outside.
Including all the racks and stuff?
Racks are bolted down.
Okay,
So you don't have to worry about the racks. The stuff that's bolted down, no. But it was basically the entire weight room. All the weights, all the dumbbells, all the jump ropes, the bands, everything that was in that room that wasn't bolted to the floor needed to be taken out. All the clips and stuff off on the racks had to be taken out. They had to get it done in 15 minutes. They got it done in 12 minutes and 50 seconds.
There you go.
Impressive. It's good
job,
stuff.
guys.
But here's the difficult part about this. They had to then put everything back in 12 minutes and 50 seconds in the exact spot that it came. Now, they got everything the first time out, which is great. Like, because you did a quick check.
Yeah.
And you're like, they got everything. That's great. And they did in 12 minutes and 50 seconds. It's awesome. And then we got to clean the coaches. One of our coaches grabbed a leaf blower and started blowing out all the disgusting dust and stuff out of there.
Course,
so they got, weight room got clean. You guys are welcome. They go to put everything back. We have 2 catastrophic disasters. Our long snapper thought it was a good idea to put all the jump ropes, bands, and other string type things around him. He started taking them off to put on back on the posts, whatever. He got all of the jump ropes tangled into a gigantic ball. I don't know how he did it. He managed to get everything stuck in a gigantic ball. And everything had to be put back in 12 minutes and 50 seconds. He spent most of the 12 minutes trying to untangle the mess that he got himself into. Then like 3 or 4 kids, they're just pulling jump ropes. Frantic. And then Honor goes up, he grabs the jump ropes, and he goes, we don't have time for this, and just hangs the nuts back on the pole over there, thinking like, I don't know, and nobody would notice. So that was one of the problems. The other problem was the buckets that they put in the wrong spot. So they had to do it, because if you don't do it right, you have to do it over again. So they had to deal with the jump ropes and they had to deal with the buckets. So then they had to take everything back out of the weight room for a second time. Had to do it still in 12 minutes and 50 seconds. And the second time, they went through it. There's like probably a minute left, and there's like 8 kids surveying the entire weight room. They don't find anything. It's like, God, we're good. Beat the old time. Our guy that runs it, Connor's like, you guys good? Good? We're set? They're like, good. They leave. I look, and I immediately find they left a safety rack on one of the racks. And it was hiding in plain sight. And I'm like, oh, no. Because at that point, like, we're not trying for them to, like, not succeed. Like, you want them to succeed. Otherwise, you have to continue to do it all afternoon, all evening. I mean, the last 2 days, I was at Cathedral till like 9 o'clock at night. And every time I'm like, oh, I'll just do this one thing. And then I look down, I'm like, it's 8:55. I've been here all afternoon. They left one of those. So Connor, who did serve in the military, brings in 2 seniors and he goes like, okay, we're going to like, when we do surveillance and all this stuff and we run these missions, we have to go back to make sure we got all of our stuff. This is how we do it. You're going to walk right down the edge of the weight room. He already knew that they forgot something. And you're going to scan, make sure we got everything. So they're scanning the walls. They go through the whole weight room and still don't see this thing.
Was it they didn't see it or willful ignorance?
They didn't see it.
Okay.
I have a picture. I'll show it to you. This is what and this is one of our coaches that walked over to it to be like, I can't believe they missed that. So they have that.
Oh,
it's kind of hard, right? But they grabbed all the other ones. So every rack has 2 of these things. Coach Doyle goes like, did you ever play the game hot, cold when you were a kid? Because you guys are frigid right now. And so they started the hot, cold game. And then one of our kids sees it, right? Or sees the thing, and he immediately just goes, So then they bring the whole team in. Ryder and the other kid were not supposed to say anything of where the rack was. Nobody can find it. It's right there in plain sight. And then it's right here. And every kid's like, Because that means they have to do push-ups and they have to go, attention to detail. Teamwork is key. Attention to detail. Teamwork is... It's like 8:50 at night. It's been a long day. They did the stuff with the seals already. They're just irritated, right? They put everything back and they get that done in the amount of time. I don't know what happened to these. We managed to lose 2 5-pound dumbbells. I have no idea where they're at. Maybe they found them this morning. They literally are taking the stuff out of the weight room, stacking it neatly outside, and putting it back inside. We had her flat. I mean, it wasn't even like a coach tried to hide it so you get punished. All the coaches were looking for the 2 5-pound dumbbells that we left. We have no idea where they were.
If I remember correctly, you guys there's kind of a ravine on the side of the field, is there not? I don't know where the weight room is, but isn't there like a...
The weight room's over by the pool. But like in between the pool and the field, did you go to Cathedral?
No, I have not.
No, you haven't. No, there's the stadium, right?
Yeah.
And then when you walk towards like the baseball field, there's like a pool like on the way, and the weight room is across from the pool underneath the gym.
Is there like a ravine there, or
no? It's not like way down below. Like nowhere near where they were.
Oh,
like
okay.
Nowhere near where they were.
I was going to say maybe like just in the chaos of everyone trying to get everything out, check it, and everything in, it rolled off the top.
We checked every bush area. We checked every nook and cranny. No idea what these 5-pound weights went.
That's odd.
I know. I was like, where did it go? There's 70 of us. Couldn't find it anywhere.
Huh.
And for everybody in the YouTube chat, it's like, yeah, classic, hide it from them and gaslight them and thinking they lost it. No, I'm telling you, not one coach has any idea where those weights went. Just got up and left. I was legitimately trying to find them. I'm like, where did these things go? Couldn't find them. So maybe they found them this morning, but they're done now. They finished at noon today. They looked extremely tired this morning. I think they got up at like 5:15. But I'm going to tell you right now, I never had to do that because they started doing that after I graduated. I would go home immediately and just sleep, and I'd probably sleep all weekend. Because they're sleeping in the gym. Like, they're sleeping, yeah, water polo team took them. That's highly possible. We got to get to break. When we come back, we get back to your phone calls. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We do need a guest for a midday sports standoff. If you want to take me down in some sports trivia, you're able to do that too as we head to break on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Summer Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 12:43 baseball coverage on 97.3. The Fan is brought to you by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi. One price, 5 years guaranteed. Xfinity, imagine that. We're going to get to our World Cup date in the next hour or so. We do need a contestant for a midday sports standoff. If you take me down in sports trivia, you would be qualified for a chance at our grand prize, a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 food and beverage credit. Oasis Pool Deck at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas is officially open for the season, offering a 6-acre elevated pool experience with 6 distinct pools and a beach. Enter to win a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 food and beverage credit. To book your stay, visit FontainebleauLasVegas.com. Now, 833-288-973, 833-288-973. We have Alice Cooper tickets to give away in the next hour as well. Before we move on to that, let's get out to Kevin in Chula Vista wants to weigh in. Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, thank God baseball's back, you guys. It's been what a week. I mean, when it comes down to your viewing choice at nighttime, Summer League NBA basketball, that's not a good thing.
No, it's
not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Anyway, getting back to the discussions we've been having about the trades, and your points, Braden, are well taken, especially about holding, because you've got 15 to 20 teams by any measuring count at this point, and they all pretty much need the same thing, which is pitchers. There's not 15 to 20 pitchers of quality available that are going to be worth going after, that can either get you to the World Series or even win a World Series for you. So your points were all taken. But here's the bigger issue that I have. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but I really think it deserves a lot more attention. When you look at the state of pitching in the major leagues right now, to where there is this constant barrage of turnover, vis-a-vis injury, what have you, it's like you're going now to a bargain basement to get pitchers. You're going to the recycle bin, when in fact the entire shape of this should be turned upside down. This is caused by a lack of development by all major league teams, Padres included, have not done a good job, in my opinion, of fostering pitchers coming up through their various systems. And that's what, we thought AJ was hired to do way back 10 years ago. He was the guru. He was the guy that was going to remake the international system. He was going to develop all of these players with all this great talent. We've only had one major league pitcher, as I recall, from a starting standpoint, come through AJ. That was Mackenzie Gore. And then you've got Adrian Morahone that came over, I think, through the international side. That's pretty much it in terms of quality, effective pitchers that we've had in 10 years of AJ. And I'm just picking on him as to make a point here. All major league teams, and including the Padres, in my estimation at this point, need to really start rethinking the entire development of pitchers, because what they're doing right now is they're wasting a hell of a lot of money on not getting a hell of a lot back.
Well, I think it's more than just development too, Kevin. I think it's a lot of like what they want to see out of a pitcher. High velo. I mean, while Kevin was talking about this, I looked up. Go back to 2023. This is not a planned segment. Like we're just going to look at these numbers at the same time here, Frank. Go back to 2023. This is kind of like a hypothesis for me. Just evaluate everybody by ERA plus. Is that like kind of a fair rank,
Sure.
Right? And you start looking at the starting pitchers from 2023, and then start thinking about who the starting pitchers are right now in 2026. This is 3 years ago. Your top 5 pitchers in 2023. Blake Snell was the number 1 pitcher in baseball in 2023, according to ERA plus. Now, WAR is a different story. Garrett Cole's got a little bit more of a WAR, but your number 1 pitcher was Blake Snell. Then it was Garrett Cole. Then it was Sonny Gray.
Was he the Cy Young winner that year, or was that 24? He won the Cy Young.
I think he won the Cy Young that year. He had a 2.25 ERA to 6.5 WAR. He threw 180 innings.
He had like over 100 walks and still won the Cy Young.
Yeah, he had 99 walks.
Yeah.
234 strikeouts. But anyway, according to ERA Plus, which, ranks everybody on a scale of average player being 100, anything over that, you're an above average player, yada, 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 yada. Blake Snell, Garrett Cole, Sonny Gray, Kyle Bradish, Kodai Senga. How many of those guys are top 5 in baseball right now?
Next to none.
How many of them are actually pitching right now? Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Snell, hurt. Garrett Cole, hurt for for a decent part of the year. Sonny Gray's been solid. He's 33 years old. What is Kyle Bradish doing? My apologies for not knowing what he's doing this year. Is he hurt? No, he's made 19 starts. He's 6-9 with a 3.61 ERA.
Not awful.
It's not awful.
It's middle of the rotation.
He was 26 3 years ago. He's 29 now.
Who's he playing for?
Still Baltimore.
Oh.
Kodai Senga. Justin Steele.
Please, for the love of God, don't look at Kodai Senga's numbers.
Jordan Montgomery, Kevin Gossman, Merrill Kelly, Jesus Luzardo. Those are your top 10 pitchers in baseball in 2023. How many of those guys are still going right now at a high level? What's Jesus Luzardo doing this year?
He's had a decent year with Philadelphia.
Year, right?
He's been okay.
He's with Philly. 8-4, 3.51. Not bad. But these guys are all 30 years old, 32, 33, 26, 30, 27, 30, 32, 34, 25. After that, Logan Webb, Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, Framber Valdez, Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Pablo Lopez, Zach Wheeler, Chris Bassett. A lot of those guys are free agents this past offseason. What are those guys doing? I'm sure there's a couple in there that are probably solid, but when you start talking about homegrown and signing guys and having pitching, I mean, do any of these guys really last that long? Now, this is just 1 year. Let's look at 2024, who the top pitchers were. I mean, there's a lot of guys that get hurt. I don't know if it's really sustainable to sign anybody to a long-term deal when it comes to, well, first of all, in general, that doesn't make any sense. But when you're talking about pitchers, you get maybe a couple of years, right? I mean, I think it's very few. I think it's very few and far between when you're seeing guys like Verlander did it for so long and Scherzer did it for so long, where you get guys that aren't getting hurt that are starting pitchers. 2024 seems a little bit more closer to this. Here are your top pitchers in 2024 based on ERA plus. Chris Sale. That's been like a resurrection, though. I mean, that was 2024 at age 35 after. Didn't the Red Sox kind of give up on him? Did they DFA him?
Who?
Chris Sale.
Sorry. I don't think they.
Did they trade him
on him? Hold on.
Because he had some bad years at the end of Boston, and then Atlanta resurrected him. He went back to being legit. But he had some bad years mixed in there.
No, they traded him for Vaughn Grissom.
That's right. So, Chris Sale, top pitcher. Tarek Skubal. I mean, Skubal missed some time this year. He has been arguably one of the best pitchers since 2024. Zach Wheeler's had a really good year.
It's funny. There's actually a brand new article about this from 2 days ago. Tyler Marr at Yahoo Sports. Did Chris Sale makes a shocking revelation about his Red Sox departure.
The Red Sox even paid money for him to go away. That sounds like they just didn't want him anymore.
He said, I felt like I owed it to, this is him during All-Star Week. He said, I just felt like I owed it to Boston. I need to give them everything I have because I really felt guilty for those years not being able to show up and not being able to play. And that weighed on me heavy. So after the 23 season, I was like, I'm going to train like I'm 23 years old again. He said he attacked that offseason with a vengeance in terms of lifting and throwing. However, Boston's new chief of baseball at the time, Craig Breslow, traded him to the Braves for Vaughn Grissom in December of 23.
All right, I don't think they really cared at that point. Zach Wheeler, good year this year, right? Ronel Blanco. He had a really good year in 2024. He pitched a little bit in 2025. He is on the injured list now in 2026. Michael King, number 5 in baseball. That was his big year that he had. He's been solid. Framber Valdez, again, but injuries this year. Shota Imanaga had not been. Has he been as good this year? He's been solid, hasn't he?
He's been iffy, but he's also had injury issues too.
Seth Lugo. He's got a 4-something ERA. Tanner Hawk, Corbin Burns, Cole Raggins, Jack Flaherty, Max Fried, Christopher Sanchez. He's on there. He's had a great year.
Raggins is hurt now too.
Bryce Miller, Eric Fetty, Michael Waka, Jamison Tyone, Dylan Cease, Aaron Nola is your top 20 pitchers in 2024.
Tyone has fallen off a cliff.
You look at the guys that are leading in Major League Baseball, and then you look at year by year over the last, we're talking about 3 seasons. We're not talking about like 10 years. We're talking about 3 seasons. And all of a sudden it's like massively different every single year. When we come back, we're going to get into the World Cup date. We'll continue this conversation about pitching as well. Drake Hills will join us at the end of the show. We'll get you ready for Padres and Royals as well. A lot to get to in the final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. Staying up at Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 1 o'clock, broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios. We know how. As we go to break, we're giving away tickets for Alice Cooper at Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Theater on November 17th. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Interesting conversation that was spewed with our last caller with Kevin. But when you start breaking down like the top pitchers every single year, because everybody talks about you need pitching, right? Which is fair. And, you want to be able to develop your own pitching. Frank, I look at like the top pitchers in Major League Baseball. It seems like they change almost every single year. And maybe it's development, like Kevin was saying, or maybe it's the fact that a lot of teams value high velo, and it might that's not a recipe for longevity in this game.
No, it's really not, and it's been that up and down that we were just talking about with these starting pitchers. You rarely see guys who have a long sustained run anymore, and for good reason. Those guys are going to the Hall of Fame, but it just goes to show that you can't you can't keep looking for aces. You're looking for guys who can fill out your starting rotation. Those are the guys who most likely are going to be having those career years, relatively same year, back to back seasons.
Those are guys like Nick Pivetta.
Yep.
You got the career year, and then it's like, here's the average years mixed in, right? And that's kind of where you're at. Just look at from last year to this year. And now this season is not completed yet. I understand. And anybody that says like, well, what about injuries? That's kind of a factor. I feel like that almost proves what we're talking about here. And again, we didn't do advanced research on this. This kind of like spur of the moment. But if you go by ERA plus in terms of like a value ranking for starting pitching, your top 10 pitchers last year, there's a couple of them that are still top 10 this year, and you'll see that year to year. But when you look 2-3 years away from that, from this point, it's like a drastic different list every single time. Last year, in ERA plus, your top 5 pitchers in baseball: Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Christopher Sanchez, Hunter Brown, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. There is not one of those top 5 that are top 5 this year. And there's only one that is in the top 10, and that's Christopher Sanchez. Paul Skeens right now is ranked the 24th best pitcher in Major League Baseball according to ERA plus, which is relatively close to like what the WAR is and everything like that. Paul Skeens still a really good pitcher, but he went from number 1 to number 24 in his second year, or in this second year at age 24. And that's not even like a developed pitcher. It's not like you need to develop Paul Skeens. Pittsburgh got the draft of the top 5 picks. This year's top 5: Mizorowski, Cam Schlittler, Chris Sale, Eduardo Rodriguez, Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease last year for the San Diego Padres had an ERA plus of 92. He was ranked the 44th best pitcher in that statistical category. This year's ERA plus is 177, means he's 77% better than an average pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's 5th. 6 through 10 last year at the end of the season: Freddie Peralta, Garrett Crochet, Andrew Abbott, Nick Pivetta, Max Fried. This year it's Chase Burns, Christopher Sanchez, Nick Martinez, Max Meyer, and Justin Robleski. You start looking at the 2 years, it's very up and down of whether or not you get the same kind of production year in and year out as starting pitching. And I think a little bit of that is the fact that it's hard to continue to be the high-powered throwing arms on a daily basis in Major League Baseball without having some type of injury concern or, burning yourself out. So I think it's a little bit of the development. I think it's a lot of, we're looking for high velo guys more than, guys that pitch the contact and work outs. And I think this is why it's hard for teams that get consistent starting staffs year in and year out, Frank.
Yeah, that's Velo's going to come and go, especially with that control. You need the best pitchers in the game haven't necessarily been the hardest throwers. They've been the best pitchers. They've been the most cerebral guys. And you're starting to lose that art a little bit now because of the hunt to try to chase down what Mizorowski could do, which is throw 104 miles an hour on any given pitch.
Yeah, he could do that right now, but he was even a top whatever. I mean, I'm looking at his stuff from last year. If I'm trying to find him on this list, I think he was below league average in the ERA plus last year. He started the All-Star game and then he really fell.
He fell off before that.
Right. I mean, it's just, to me, I just think there's not one team that's consistently turning out homegrown pitchers. I mean, I guess Seattle probably is. But what has that done for Seattle so far? I mean, you're kind of in the same spot you've been. Their offense is terrible. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting topic of discussion. I mean, I just feel like everybody goes, well, these guys have these like great young arms, but they obviously don't have a lot of those young arms. There's only so many you can have. And again, that list changes all the time. We had Craig Stammen on our airwaves here earlier this morning. He was on with Ben and Woods as part of the Manager's Report. Manager's Report is brought to you by SDCCU. It's not big bank banking. It's better. There are a lot of different clips from Craig Stammen this morning, but obviously with the game starting again tonight, there's a big importance of these first few games. Here's what Craig Stammen had to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think every goal that we had at the beginning is still out in front of us. And, you know, we finished at the All-Star break at 500, which isn't bad. It isn't great. We're in the hunt still, but we know we've got to play our best here these last 66. And I think everybody collectively knows that and wants to do it. So it's going to be, honestly, it's something that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Obviously, this is very important. You know, he had some thought. You know, he made some comments last week about in his game. I'm not going to manage every game like Game 7, which I get. I mean, you're going to wear teams out doing that. I definitely think, though, Frank, that it probably needs to be a little bit more sense of urgency on how he manages some of these games because they are going to run out of time. But Ben and Woods kind of followed up and asked him about his Game 7 quote last week.
Honestly, no. I didn't even know that was a thing. No, I think that's the nature of baseball is like every game cannot be Game 7 because it's such a long season. Now, as you get down towards the end, can you be more aggressive or even at the end of the leading into the All-Star break, can you be more aggressive with how you make decisions? And yeah, we did and we can. There's just, you got to pick your places. And, you know, when you're on a stretch of 17 games in a row, it's impossible to do that. When you're on a stretch coming up here now of another 10 games in a row, it's probably less likely you can do it at all 10 games. But, you know, at the nature of where we're at in the standings and how many games we have left, we've got to be a little bit more aggressive going forward. I think the players know that and expect that. But to, you know, manage them in a way for 162 like that, you know, I would burn them out really fast. I know what that felt like as a player. I know what that felt like as a reliever specifically. You know, when you're managing games like that, it's impossible to last that long. So, you know, hopefully I have a good perspective of the yin and yang of doing it, you know, but being aggressive but also taking care of the guys. I think, you know, we're set up for a good second half. We've managed it in the right way. These guys are healthy and fresh and ready to go.
Speaking of second half, he's going to need some help with his starting rotation. And Ben and Woods asked Craig Stammen about the status of his starting rotation.
Yeah, health-wise, they're all doing really well. Performance-wise, you know, we know it. The last few weeks before the All-Star break wasn't our best from the starting rotation perspective. We're getting a few guys back healthy. You know, obviously in the back of our minds, we're thinking about Joe and Nick and Lucas Giolito coming back, and hopefully we'll have those guys at some point in the second half. But right now with the guys that we've got a few options, and we're probably going to mix and match based on matchups. You know, what teams we're facing and, you know, maybe put some of those guys in the bullpen for a little bit, bring them back to starters, but, you know, try to set them up for the, you know, most favorable matchups that we can. And seeing if we can get a little bit more out of them. And, part of that is the manager and how long I'm leaving them in the game, how long they're going to last and, when they're pitching next. So, we're definitely talking every day on how we're going to use that pitching staff the most effectively. And, if we can be a little creative with them also.
Craig Stammen was on with Bennett Woods as part of our manager's report, which is every Friday on the morning show in the morning, obviously. That's presented by SDCCU. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. We thought that this week would be a good reset week for a lot of the players and a good week for Craig Stammen to reflect on the first half, his first half of being a manager in the big leagues. What did he reflect on his first half, and how much did he reflect on his first half?
Definitely a look forward guy. I think there's always time for reflection. I think I was more reflecting on maybe the last week, not just the entire first half. And I think that's kind of, how I've looked at it. It's almost like there's so many different seasons within that first half of the season. If you look back on how we've played, and I think the only thing that you can really reflect on is where we're currently at, how we currently, the last week or so of games, and we got past that, the losing streak and not playing very good and had a winning homestand and the positive things that came out of that. Now, how do we take that positive energy and the things we did well and bring that into the second half is more of, what my thoughts are. And, how do you talk to the guys when they first get back? They're going to be motivated. They're going to be excited. How do you rekindle those memories of those last two games of how they won those two games and then bring that in against the Royals is kind of, what I'm thinking of, going forward.
What specifically, though, can he do better in the second half, at least in his opinion? Here's what Craig Stammen had to say.
I think, our offense hasn't hit very well. We're last in the league in a lot of categories. We've hit better here lately. I think how we played those last two games where we played a little bit of small ball, we had some big ball, hit with runners in scoring position, stole some bases that helped us win that last game. It's how can we be a complete offense, and how can I manage the game that way and, get the players to play with that type of attitude and that type of energy that is always coming back. It's always, even if we get down or someone hits a 3-run homer, we're fighting back. We're scratching for every run that we can create. I think that's when our offense is at the best and when our team's at the best. And I think me being able to, present that message to the players, continually remind them, continually push them for a little bit extra, a little bit more, not to give in to the, length of the season, not to give in to, us having a couple of tough games or a couple of tough innings, but to constantly keep pushing and finish strong. So, that's what I'm kind of looking for too on the offensive side. And then on the pitching side too, is how can we be, a little bit more decisive with the decision making on when to take guys out and when to leave them in and, what are those right situations. So we've got a lot of good pitchers. We've got guys in a lot of different roles. How can we use them strategically? How can we use Mason Miller and Adrian Marhone, and hopefully we get back Jeremiah Estrada, and how can we use that bullpen to our advantage the best in the second half?
Craig Stammen was on with the morning show as part of the manager's report. It's brought to you by SDCCU. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. Obviously, with a lot of the offense, it goes the way Manny goes. Manny's starting to play a little bit better, at least at the end of the ceremonial first half. Wonder if he can continue it into the second half. What has Craig Stammen seen out of Manny Machado?
Yeah, I think part of that, Tim, is he doesn't want to, say one thing and then something else happen. I think he's trying to play coy and doesn't really want to talk about when he is feeling good, what that's like, because it's just a feeling that he has. And I think he's articulated that to us over here the last month that, hey, I'm seeing the ball well. I still have some of my bad habits that I developed in spring training. I've still got to get rid of those, but there's more days where I feel like my old self, more consistently. And so, you can see it when he's swinging the bat the way he did, at this last homestand and previously when that bat path is the one that we're accustomed to seeing and he's on time for the fastball, that's when we got the good Manny Machado. But for me, like, his attitude is great. He knows that we've got a lot of work to do here the second half, but he's willing to, put the team on his back and carry the load. And I think, that's what's best about Manny is he sees the big picture and he also knows that where he's at and what the team needs from him and his willingness to be able to go out and do that.
Last thing that they asked Craig Stammen about on the morning show today as part of our manager's report was about the pressure heading into the deadline and whether or not Craig feels any pressure heading into the deadline.
You're right. Like, we want to play well. We want to have a chance to make the playoffs, and we want to have a chance to win the World Series. So the pressure for us is the same. Like, these 10 games matter, they matter the same to us, whether the trade deadline's coming or not. Obviously, we play well here these next 10 days. It gives AJ a little bit more ammo to, try and go out and make some moves. And we've seen in the past that he's very good at that, and he can improve the team. The team has been improved in the last few trade deadlines. Me as manager, the way I look at it is I love the players that we have, and the guys that we have, we're going to go out and try to win baseball games. And that's kind of my job, is to take who we have and win as much as possible. So focus on the guys currently on the team, and that I view them as being on the team the rest of the year. And, I think we have enough talent on the roster. We have a good enough team. We showed that throughout most of the first half, outside of that little lull that we had against the Cubs and the Dodgers. We're a team that can compete with anybody. So feel good about that. I know AJ will do his thing, and when he does, we'll take that roster and that team and, try to win as many games with it as possible.
I think that's all pretty fair comments from Craig Stammen this morning on with the morning show. And again, second half, the pressure is on the second half. I mean, the Padres got to get back into a groove a little bit, and they need to go on a run. And I think at this point, we know that they got to go 38-28 in their next 66 to put them in a safer category. And that's assuming that, a bunch of teams don't get hot in the second half. But things are lining up for the Padres to have a good second half. They're getting the offense going, which is great. The competition that they are competing with for a wild card spot has some of the most difficult schedules remaining in the second half. And the Padres have one of the easiest schedules remaining. They have a lot of teams that they're going to play on their schedule that are below 500. And the Padres this year are 30-16 against teams below 500. So things are aligning. That does not mean that the Padres are going to cash in. They still have to get the job done, and that starts tonight, and it starts this weekend against Kansas City, who is a bad baseball team, and they have lost 5 straight going into the break. They haven't been very good. Even their better pitching has been okay. They don't have a bullpen really. It's a series that the Padres need to dominate if they want to get back on track. This is a road trip that they can't afford to go 5-5 on.
No, they really can't. I mean, we've said it, I know, going so far back now, that this is the most important 16-game stretch of the season. This really is, because these 16 games determine what the future outlook for this team is. Determines whether or not they stand still, whether or not they sell, and if they do stumble out of the gate here and they do end up having to sell, sets a pretty bleak outlook for August and September about potentially making it to the postseason. So these next 2 weeks, these 16 games truly are season-defining games as far as what this team is going to do at the trade deadline, which sets the team up for how they're going to look in August and September.
And it's not impossible. I mean, the Red
not.
Sox just won 10 games in a row and are now tied for a wild card spot. I mean, they were 36-48 10 games ago. And that team's been terrible all year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right back in the thick of things.
Fired their entire management staff at the beginning of the season. It took a little while, but now they're finally starting to turn it around. Saw what the Phillies have done. We've gone over what they've done with Don Mattingly leading the helm as far as their schedule, but that's also sustained. So, I mean, it can be done.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you are the fourth caller, you will win tickets to Alice Cooper as we go to break. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Pair of tickets, Alice Cooper, Cal Coast Credit Union, Open Air Theater, November 17th. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. We'll announce the winner when we come back. Quick preview of Padres and Royals before we get to Drake Hills to finish up the show today on a Friday. Braden Surprenant Show, Static Urban Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Seattle Seahawks are about to become the most expensive NFL franchise sale in history. Paul Allen Estate has agreed to sell the team to a group led by the Kolsa family for $9.612 billion. That's billion with a B, a number that would crush the previous record for an NFL franchise. Kolsa is expected to become the first minority woman to ever have sole control of an NFL team, making this a historic ownership change both financially and culturally. Paul Allen's nearly 30-year run transformed Seattle into one of the NFL's strongest organizations, and now the question is whether the new ownership group can continue that winning tradition. NFL isn't just America's most popular sport. It's becoming one of the most valuable businesses in the world as the Seahawks sell for almost $10 billion, $9.6 billion. This is the definition of selling one on top, like selling high. It's exactly what the Seahawks do after winning a Super Bowl, but obviously a big sale for the franchise. And, you know, whether or not they win, I think is different because of the fact that this is not like baseball where spending money is going to lead to a championship. There are rules in place, but it really sets the legacy, or really sets the precedent of who is going to be able to buy sports teams in the future, at least in a solo sense. Or are we going to have a group setting now for most ownership of sports teams because the price tag has gotten so high?
Yeah, it's the future has turned into a conglomerate. You're not going to be able to, as a single person, unless you really are rich, one, and two, insane, you're not going to be able to afford to buy one of these teams on your own anymore. The price has just gone absolutely insane. To me, it's also interesting, the wrinkle that she was a former San Francisco 49er owner as well, a minority owner in the Niners. Now she's being forced to sell those shares in order to be able to do this. But, you know, to buy another team in the division, that's quite interesting as well.
That is interesting, but it's almost to the point of like you want to be able to afford your own team. And you know what? It's like buying and selling stock, right? I mean, that's what you're doing. You're buying and selling shares of the franchise. And, you know, whatever her shares were initially to buy the Niners have probably gone up themselves in terms of the valuation of the franchise when she sold those and then put them into the Seahawks. And why wouldn't you do that if you had the ability and you had other means of a financial avenue to be a minority owner and turn yourself into a majority owner? I think that's what a lot of minority owners probably would like to do if they like to call the shots and want to run things a certain way. If they just want to collect the check of being an owner and having like the fun, like there's still a lot of perks without taking as much of a risk. She obviously wants the extra risk. Seahawks finally sell again, close to $10 billion. But I mean, you look at the stages of this, of the NFL franchise values. Broncos sold for $4.65 billion. The Commanders sold for $6 billion, and now the Seahawks getting close to $10 billion. I mean, how high can NFL franchises values go? If the Jones family didn't want to own the Cowboys, I mean, that is probably a pretty penny to try to buy the Dallas Cowboys in this day and age.
It's about 10 to 15 billion, I would have to assume, based off of what the Seahawks
are
going. So yeah, it is amazing. And especially with the value just of the NFL as a whole, that is only going to make these teams more and more expensive to buy as well.
I look at this and you know, from a standpoint of being able to buy franchises, I just think it's probably going to be more. There's two things that can happen. One, it's going to be group effort, or two, you're just going to have the Steve Cohens of the world, or there's somebody that just is super into wanting to be an owner of a professional franchise. And I mean, there's going to be franchises going to be a lot easier to buy in sports. The NFL is going to be the hardest thing in the United States to buy if you're an owner. But I think that leads to, like, you know, there's not going to be these, and we talked about this before the Padres sale went through. There's not a lot of owners anymore that are mom and pop shop owners, if you will, where that is their sole income and they cut corner, or they do everything they need to do to try to make that as profitable as possible, because if they don't make any money. That's the type of owner you want, the one that this is just kind of a toy. And so for Seattle, we'll see what happens with this. I don't think anything really changes though when it comes to the organizations, the NFL. Like when you have, at least in this day and age, I mean, with the salary cap and everything like that, unless you're getting a Spanos family to buy, which they would never be able to afford teams like this in this day and age. I mean, ownership groups aren't changing anything that crazy when it comes to money, because everything's relatively the same with the salary cap. If they decide to call the shots and they're not good football people, then yeah, that could have a catastrophic effect on how teams are run. I think you see that more with families that run teams that have had them for generations, though, more so than new ownership groups. 125 on a Friday. Padres and Royals getting underway today at 5:10. Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 4:10. We've had one game go final in Major League Baseball today. That means two games have gone final in the second half of the season. How about the Mets yesterday, huh?
How about them? How about them giving us
we're at the point in
sense of hope?
We're in the point of the season where Frank wants them to lose, and now they're winning.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they win again. Helps the Padres out a little bit.
That's cool.
In terms of the standings. It's great.
Does it though? Does it? Since you're 0-6 against the Phillies this year, does it really help you?
If you finish above them by a game, it does. Does it not?
It does.
It does. That's only if you're tied. They could lose. They'd lose their way out of the contention. They don't have to worry about them anymore. Don't worry about tiebreakers if they're behind you in the standings.
Somebody asked in the chat if the Met game was canceled for today because of the
smoke.
No, it's not. It was a 3-game series. They had today off. Today was a scheduled day off today.
Interesting. Don't look now. The Mets are only 11.5 out of a wild card spot. If they win 10 straight.
Those are rookie numbers.
If they win 10 straight like the Red Sox, they would still be 5 games under 500.
Those are rookie numbers. We got to get those up.
I will say this. There were 2 teams that decided to fire their managers at the beginning of the season. Both of them are currently in a wild card spot. And one team decided not to do that until more recently.
Instead,
and they're 11.5 games out of a wild card.
Instead, at least according to Adam Ottavino on a podcast here recently, they were too busy letting AI tell their catchers what pitches to throw.
We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
You talked that into existence because you said, what happens if like those 7 worst teams are the ones using the AI? How funny would that be? Still funny?
Yes, it is.
What's that drop that they play on the morning show?
It's funny.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's funny, but for a different reason now. Because now it's just because you laugh to keep from crying at that point.
You're not one off. You were spot on.
There you go. Of all the things to be right about, I know my team. All right, let's just say that I know my team.
Royals have their lineup out today. Padres still waiting on theirs. It's Lugo and King today.
We'll have to assume there's a roster move coming.
Well, they had the Johnny Brito one the other day, a couple days ago.
It was a couple days ago. Players don't usually go on the bereavement list for too long.
Yeah, who knows what the roster move is? Or maybe they're locking in a lineup. When we come back, we're going to talk with Drake Hills. He joins us to finish up the show, get you ready for the World Cup over the weekend. We'll do that when we come back. 1:34 on a Friday. Hope you guys getting ready for a fun summer weekend. We got a couple more weeks of summer left. Actually, we got more than a month. I mean, last day of summer is really September 21st. Do you abide by that? That is it's when things turn over to fall.
That's when it's supposed to start getting cold, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, except it doesn't start getting cold here. It doesn't start getting cold here till like November, if that.
Well, then the last day of summer is November.
You don't know what's going on with the El Nino either. I know fishing's good right now.
Should be
tuna everywhere.
Should be leading off, no?
I don't know yet. They haven't decided. We're talking about winter El Nino. It's gonna be. It's gonna rain.
Back to the Dominican.
It's gonna rain.
That's usually what he does.
It's gonna rain. We need to get to our World Cup date. Our World Cup report, if you will, is brought to you by Harris SoCal. Catch the final on July 19th at the First Down Sports Bar. Join our massive ticketed event at the Event Center. Don't just watch history, be part of it in Funner, California. And to give us a preview of the World Cup final and the third place match, if anybody really cares about that, including the two teams that are competing in it. We get to the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better, as we're joined by Drake Hills, who joins us each and every Friday. Drake, what's going on? Hopefully got some fun stuff planned this weekend. How's your Friday going?
Oh, man, Friday is great. It's a bit weird. Like, I think that we were all used to, watching 3 to 4 World Cup games a day for the last couple of weeks, and all of a sudden we've got a bunch of off days, waiting for what seems to be the last dance for Lionel Messi, and potentially a spoiling party for Spain. So Sunday should be fun, but, I'm going to say I'm probably one of the few who are going to value this third place game, because I have a couple of storylines that I think are on the table. One is Thomas Tuchel's job as the manager of England. And two, I think as the favorite to win the World Cup, which was France, in my opinion, I think they still have a lot to say. The Spain competition, Spain has had their number for the last few years. And I think that they want to show that if that was more of a 5-game, 7-game series, that they would be able to come out on top. Obviously, that's not how things work. So I think they're very extra motivated in France in that third place game.
I kind of want to ask a follow-up on that. I mean, we've been trying to discuss whether or not that game is going to mean a lot. And we were talking, earlier this week about the, where's the juice for either team? I mean, obviously Mbappe could be battling out for a golden boot if he really wanted to. It's kind of a letdown, obviously, for both teams that had aspirations for a third, for a World Cup championship. I think the situation should be different for like a country like the United States, who probably would love to be in a third place game. Maybe some other countries that have been on a fun run would be extra juiced up for it. But how does England and France get geared up, and how do their players get excited to play in a, kind of a disappointing finish to their World Cup by being in a third place game?
Well, if you look at player to player, I think that England is a lot more solid. I think there's true solidarity in that team. And if you think back to the quarterfinal when England just scratched and clawed to get past Norway down there in Miami, in a very humid game, very intense, Erling Haaland and the company, they could have easily beaten England last Saturday. So that going back to that, the end of that game, you could see how together they have been over the last few stages. They've ended the games just as they started them, together, playing together, incredible effort. You're not seeing a whole lot of bickering, or you're not hearing reports of cliques or dissensions in the team. I think Jude Bellingham as the on-field captain, I think Jordan Henderson as the off-field captain has really galvanized this England team. And quite honestly, it's like players and coaches are separate, but the players themselves are very much together. I don't necessarily see that with France. I see kind of like the front line of Desiree Doué, Kylian Mbappe, and Ousmane Dembele are just trying to make the goals happen. And I see France in this space where they're trying to honor their manager, He's on his last dance, Didier Deschamps. But they're not. I don't see the true motivation from them, the way that I see England and the path that England has taken, having to beat some of the tougher teams to even get to a third place game. So I think that England have the advantage of the solidarity, the motivation, and that's only for themselves. I think Thomas Tuchel has to watch his back, because if England do not play their best and obliterate France, or at least get the win, it's more likely than not that he will no longer be the manager of the England men's national team.
We're talking with Drake Hills, who is a contributing writer for Black Players for Change. He's been covering soccer for a long time now in the MLS. So we're talking about the World Cup a little bit. And before we get to the World Cup final on Sunday and the matchup that brings, let's get to the big talking point about, how Team USA did in this tournament, whether or not you consider it a success or not. And where they move forward. I know that's kind of three different questions, but what has been your evaluation of Team USA after this World Cup is now coming to a close?
I had to take a brief moment there, because I'm just thinking, let's start with the first question in terms of disappointment or not. It is 100% a disappointment. Not merely because this is a World Cup that's been hosted primarily on U.S. soil. You have Mexico and Canada in there as well. But you have this generation where this was supposed to be, in terms of your attacking players, your playmakers in the midfield, supposed to be your most talented generation. I still think there's an argument to that because of where Tyler Adams is, because of where Weston McKennie is. I think the surgence or the burgeoning nature of Malik Tillman as one of the younger up-and-coming midfielders who is able to score from dead balls as well as in the run of play. But then you also have a Timmy Weah. You have a Florian Balogun. You have, of course, Christian Pulisic. But quite frankly, this team is not better than the 2002 team that has been kind of like the standard if you think about World Cup performance. And so, I'm looking at this comparison between the two, right? You have a lot of names that U.S. fans will be very well and knowledgeable of. Greg Berhalter was one of the main center backs for the 2002 World Cup team. You had a loaded midfield. You had Freddie Heiduck, who's San Diego native. You had Eddie Lewis. You had Ernie Stewart, one of the best players. Kobe Jones, DeMarcus Beasley, Josh Wolf, a former MLS coach, Landon Donovan, obviously, Clint Mathis, Brian McBride. That was a solidified team that was actually able to go the distance and reach quarterfinal. I think that the quarterfinal stage was the bare minimum for the 2026 U.S. men's national team, and we did not see that. I think that team was capable of beating Belgium, and they simply could not. They had their worst game at the wrong time. Now, in terms of the future of the national team, I think there's a lot of questions about Mauricio Pochettino. He told Cadena Cope, which is a major radio station in Madrid yesterday, that he will make a decision next week on whether or not he will continue being the U.S. men's national team manager. I just think that this is a pivotal area for U.S. men's national team fandom, where you're not sure if you are going to keep this anticipation of being on the rise, or if this generation of players is going to fulfill its potential and be a top 15, flirting with a top 10 national team in the world. I think that was the very zealous expectation. And I just don't think that they're going to get there, Braden.
We're talking with Drake Hills, who is our soccer expert here as we preview the World Cup final coming up on Sunday, as well as dive into a little bit of the MLS, as that has already started back up. When talking about Team USA, the last question that I kind of wanted to ask you, because I asked it to another soccer analyst earlier this week. There was a big conversation on social media about the difference between U.S. soccer and international soccer. and how it's pay for play here, and that's not the case for a lot of other countries, and it might help tell the story about the development of players here in the United States. We're not we can't necessarily cast a wide net as we would be able to in other countries with the way that we have assembled our youth. How much of how expensive youth sports are, because it's all the sports, it's not just soccer, but soccer obviously is the driving force here because of the fact that they have to compete with other sports anyway. How much is cost the driving factor for lack of development in the United States when it comes to youth soccer? And it kind of eliminates a lot of opportunities for maybe some kids that can't afford to go to some of these academies.
Well, it's pivotal, but it's not absolute. Cost to play at a club level, and quite frankly, identifying who are going to be the players that can make a top level academy squad or a MLS squad, is probably going to be around age 14, 13 to 15, probably around there. And we're behind the 8 ball because, yes, cost, but also access, right? Where are the fields? Let's just look at it from a San Diego perspective. Where are the available fields that have regular pickup? If you're not driving past Sunset Cliffs Boulevard, and obviously, Albion out there in OB, one of the best. They're doing great things over there. Or if you're not driving past Via Della Valle, you're not driving past the polo fields in Del Mar, Surf doing an incredible job. But where are the regular pickup open field spaces where kids are playing? Are they regulated? Do they need to be regulated? So there's access as well. And then, of course, there's the competition. A lot of these nations, they are and have earned the reputation of being the premier sport. And I think that when we're talking about athletes and where athletes are going, yes, cost and access are going to be huge motivations to that. I just see that there's also this need to try and reinvent the narrative or write a new chapter in the narrative of soccer, whether it be at the local level, regional, or obviously national, that other nations, they're just different. They have more of a solidity across the board in all three of those categories. And so there has been this response of creating or casting a wide net, as you say, Braden. But if you look at the numbers to other nations, let's say Germany or France or England, that really, if you take a look at their club players that will eventually reach a professional level, they're all under between 7 and 8% of a age 12, 13 to 15 category. Only at most 8% will even get a shot at getting a professional contract at a professional club. So if we're already behind the 8 ball when it comes to the amount of kids and the actual athletes themselves, not to mention the cost and the access to actually playing soccer, it becomes more apples and oranges than a foot race to getting the best players on the field.
Let's talk about the World Cup Final on Sunday. Obviously, there's a lot of smoke in the area in New Jersey. I don't know if they've had conversations about potentially moving the game, if that is a factor on Sunday with the fires in Canada leaking across most of the United States. But from an on-field perspective, how do you see this one playing out between Spain and Argentina? Can Argentina keep the late theatric comeback going, and Spain continue to put up zeros and throw up, not allow any goals? I mean, something's got to give here, I think, in this matchup. It should be a fun one. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I'm thinking more so about how Spain are going to defend and trying to separate an Argentina team that obviously has allowed Messi to float into channels on both the right and the left. He's, with Lionel Messi, if we're talking about how this Spain team, who's only conceded once against Belgium, Like, this is a Spain team that has just passed to death everyone, and stereotypically so, because that's just the Spanish way. But I think there's more to that. Like, the way that they have broken down and have been able to tire out any high press that comes their way, being able to build out of the back and play with the goalkeeper, not with his hands, but with his feet, and play as an 11th man, and breaking every high press. I just wonder, what exactly are they going to do when they don't have the ball? What's going to happen when Argentina has extended periods of possession? How will Spain respond to that? Because if you look at the France game, they were able to just dominate possession, and France got more and more frustrated because they couldn't implement a significant high press. So I think that we're going to see some goals for sure. I'm going to take Spain, actually. I don't see Argentina replicating. We haven't seen that since, I believe it was Pele in Brazil way back in the 1960s. So, look, I think that Spain's going to come out on top. I'm going to say 2-1 to Spain over Argentina on Sunday. But it's going to be interesting to see. Argentina does have a shot if they can get some extended possession in this World Cup final.
Last thing for you, Drake. MLS started back up last night. San Diego FC will start next week. What does San Diego FC have to do in the second half to get back in this thing?
Well, the easiest one is get some wins, right? They're going to need to get back into some winning form. But to be more specific and not use a cop-out answer here, I just think that they need to follow this process. They've played a lot of younger guys. Duran Ferry has gotten some extended time in goal. Luca Bambino. Some of these guys have withstood injury, having to go through injury. I think that with this younger group, can they get some composure under their belt when they are under pressure, playing out of the back, learning how to play without the ball? That's exactly what they're going to need to do, and get back to playing Mikey Vara's football. Like the way that he's valued direct possession, being able to break lines, being able to play off of Anders Dreyer up front. Marcus Ingvartsen's had an incredible start. How can they get back to playing Mikey Vara's football? And I think that starts with understanding how to play under pressure. So very excited to see how they go up against FC Dallas. Obviously, it was a pretty catastrophic game on the last matchup between these two. So very much looking forward to seeing how San Diego does after the World Cup break.
Drake, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the final couple of games of the World Cup over the weekend. Look forward to talking to you about San Diego FC later on in the next couple of weeks or so. Appreciate the time as always.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.
Drake Hills joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. Bold prediction for this weekend, Frank.
Padres sweep.
Padres sweep.
Padres get the sweep.
I think Manny Machado is going to pick up where he left off. I think Manny Machado hits 2 home runs this weekend.
Well, there you go.
There you go. That's my bold prediction. Oh, we'll see. They need to win all 3 games. It's hard to ask for a sweep. Hopefully they take 2 out of 3. But if they lose 2 games this weekend, it's going to be bad news on Monday. And they got 4 games against Atlanta next week. It's a pretty big, important stretch for the Padres their next 10 games. So for Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Kyle Hart will join the afternoon show coming up in just a little bit. Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby with Gwynn and Chris coming up next. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.